is so weird. It's like I fell down the rabbit hole. Earlier, YouTube just kicked me off in the middle of a stream, and then just now, it did it again, and then it like gave me this thumbnail that I used like a year ago, and it was like go live, and I was like okay, and I clicked on it, and there was no one there, and then I got rid of that, and then this thumbnail came back, and it was like waiting for a luminostic. So I don't know what the hell is going on with YouTube today. All right, so I'm back. Let's see, what was the name? Publizar or something? It was someone asking a question, and I don't know if you're the same person. Okay, question. Okay, cool. What is it about the weed situation here? Oh, it's absolutely terrible. Ecuador just passed medical marijuana law. I mean, I can kind of draw parallels to the United States in some ways. Like Ecuador is kind of like the Utah of South America. We're kind of conservative, and people are very moderate, very formal. It's definitely not like Brazil is like the California of South America, and probably where I should be. Honestly, I'm not there because it's very dangerous, and we were thinking about going. I started even learning to speak Portuguese a little bit, which I actually like a lot better than Spanish. It's sexier and more interesting, more musical to me. So, at any rate, Ecuador, it's better here in where everyone's indigenous. The indigenous people are more my style than a lot of the other areas here. What about buying a smaller plot of land? It's funny that you had mentioned that, because the other day when I went back to investigate this, it's a 3-month visa, unless you want to jump through hoops, and then you can get a cedula. It's not that hard, but you have to either buy property, or I had a kid here, and that'll do it. And also, if you have so much invested, then you can stay. But as far as the smaller plot of land goes, I mean, I don't really want to, because kind of the point is like trying to conserve rainforest and protect it from the Chinese mines. I came here to work with the Shuar Federation, and I have not managed to do that so far, partly because it would require me to go hours into the jungle on foot and by canoe, and I haven't been well. So, I mean, I can barely walk to the mailbox without trembling all over, and so going 10 hours into the jungle is not really viable at the moment. But I went back to the cave the other day with all the gold in it, to try to get a sample to have it assayed, and it is indeed an old Spanish mine. I found this out because I was heading into the cavity in the rock, and I heard from behind me, "Donde vas?" which is where you're going. And so it's private property in the mine. I don't think the guy cares that the gold is there. He's older, and I don't think he cares. But the land is for sale. And aside from the fact that there's this gold mine there, there's this gorgeous crystalline, it's a creek, I guess, but it's an awful lot of water. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that 1,500 hectares is an awful lot of land. And, I mean, I almost want to just refer you to the other live stream, because I just went through all this in that one, but there's a shit ton of corn planted already, I guess, and so that pays for the land. And then there's a river with a lot of gold that can be sluiced, and there's 2 kilometers of riverfront. There's 2 kilometers of riverfront. So, oh well, you mean like palatable drinking water? I mean, that's not really a thing here. I mean, you just have to boil it, or we'll bring in, you like this, these things, you just have them filled in town for $1 and then canoe them. Fill the canoe. I mean, they have canoes here because that's like a preferred method of well, not preferred, but there's rivers everywhere, and there are communities all around the rivers, and the only way to get to them is in canoe. So there are these huge canoes here that, I mean, they're not really canoes by, like, when you would think of a canoe, they look almost Asian. They're like really, really long and skinny, and they have like 40 seats in them and roofs. But they refer to them as canoes, and it's pretty cheap, and they ferry you around everywhere. You actually can't get to Misawai from the street access because the bridge is like a suspension bridge, and one of the cables snapped. So now the bridge is like cockeyed, I guess is the word. And there's a sign on it that says, peligroso de los muerte, or something like danger, you can die. What type of entheogens am I utilizing? I mean, I make ayahuasca with bobinsana and uña de gato and tobacco, and basically a variation of the Schwar recipe, which varies from situation to situation, but yeah, I mean, mostly ayahuasca with bobinsana. Bobinsana is kind of like my cornerstone ally plant, because most of my life I had a very nice closed heart, and so I encountered ayahuasca with bobinsana when I met my partner, which was so serendipitous that it's kind of one of those things that compels one to suspect some higher office, some higher agency is orchestrating or influencing events in our lives, because we didn't plan to drink that particular brew. We weren't romantically involved, and we both had very, very closed heart chakras, I guess would be one way to say it. And it just so happened that at the last ceremony that we were in together before I went back to the United States, the shaman brought in a guest facilitator who had been doing dieta with the bobinsana for many, many months. And if you're not aware of what bobinsana is, it's related to mimosa. Mimosa Hostilis is a relative, the plant that people generally will extract N-dimethyltryptamine from the roots. Mimosa trees are an invasive species in the United States. They're also acacia is related, and they have the white and pink flowers that look like a star burst kind of affair. And one of the interesting aspects of this, in fact, in my secret stream, my patron-only secret stream earlier, I was talking about how one of the phenomena, I guess, that has compelled me to believe in this sort of higher agency or greater symmetry or some sort of universal intelligence is that there are, looking back across my life, there are certain incidents that I knew they were significant in the moment, but I wouldn't understand why until many, many years later in many cases. And yeah, exactly. Gnosis is literally one of those things. My mom, I heard like Gnostic, and I asked my mom what a Gnostic was, and this wasn't really even the kind of thing that she would know. And she said, well, there are people that believe that you don't need a preacher or a book or whatever. And And I was like 8 years old or something, and I remember when I went out on the front porch, and it was just glorious. Like, I was like, I'm a Gnostic. Uh, and so, it would be well, actually, it would be a decade and a half, at least, before I really understood how monumentally important Gnostics and the Gnostic tradition would be. Um, and there were a lot of other things like that, and one of them is the Mimosa Flower. My mother, who is the reason why I had the closed heart, despite her good intentions, she was severely damaged. Uh, Her favorite flower when I was a child, and my own as well, probably because it was, well, I don't know. I mean, it's a crazy flower. It looks like hair, It's like white at the base and then pink at the tips. And the mimosa it's actually an invasive species from Japan, but the one that grows in Virginia where I grew up smells really sweet and delicious, um, and so it was both of our favorite flowers. And the significance of the mimosa flower later on in life is extraordinary in light of that, and also, um, I mean, there's a lot that happened around that. It's really difficult to like condense it and convey it, I guess. But uh, my mom actually committed suicide after I came to Ecuador to visit her. I hadn't seen her in 8 years, hadn't spoken to her, and while I was visiting, she killed herself. So, I mean, you can imagine that, I haven't seen my mom in 8 years. I'm thinking I'm going to come down here and we're going to reconcile and everything is going to be amazing. And instead, we get into a huge fight the last time I see her alive, and uh, then she commits suicide. So, because she was mentally ill when I was a child, this was the reason for the closed heart in the first place. And remember this mimosa flower, right? So, um, after she committed suicide, while I was down here, I met my current partner, who is the mother of my children. Thank you. And so, this bobinsana, this flower that was the symbol of my mother, was thank you, was inculcated into this ayahuasca at the final ceremony that I was having with the current mother of my children, who, by the way, ayahuasca told me when the first time I laid eyes on her, she will have your babies. And it was not like I it's not that I wasn't attracted to her. She's very beautiful. I mean, she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Um, and certainly for her archetype, she's as beautiful as you can get. Uh, but it's not like I was thinking that, because she's 14 years younger, and that's not where my head was anyways. It just seemed ridiculous and I blew it off. But literally, like, I looked at her and Pachamama said, she will have your babies. And our son just turned 18 months 15 days ago, so he's almost 19 months, 18 and a half months. Um, so that's crazy. But so it's this flower that I associate with my mother, who is the reason why my heart was closed in the first place, that ultimately opened my heart and allowed me to experience the unconditional love that I was unable to experience because my mother was unable to do that because she was so severely damaged. And so I hope I conveyed that well enough that you understand what I mean about this universal mind, and the evidence that that it leaves of its handiwork. Okay, so this is supposed to be an AMA, and I noticed that. But I guess I didn't finish answering the question. I mean, I work with everything. I am not a person that believes that only plant medicine is valid. MDMA is great. LSD is a miracle. I think that this attitude that, well, absolutely, that's what these live streams are for. And thank you for appreciating it. uh, I don't think that the fact that man, I mean, LSD is semi-synthetic anyways, and MDMA is actually based on a plant molecule. So these things are not that far removed from nature anyways. Ketamine is just like, that's got nothing to do with anything in nature as far as I know. But, you know, in the case of LSD, the way I look at it is that for once, it's to me, it's a testament that man can actually collaborate with nature and produce something good, you know. And as far as tools that we have to repattern addictions and to rewire neurological aberrations, it actually has been shown. Well, right, yeah, that's one way to look at it. Research has shown that LSD is actually the most efficacious at catalyzing neurogenesis and restoring neuroplasticity, more so than DMT or psilocybin or any of it. So, in some ways, LSD is actually better for therapeutic purposes than any natural psychedelic. Just from a purely physical, neurochemical, neurobiological standpoint, LSD is king. So, you know, I'll work with any entheogen depending on the circumstances. LSD for me is it's been fundamental in rebuilding my brain. I suffered pretty serious brain damage from Suboxone, which I was taking to get through withdrawals that would have been actually a lot easier than the Suboxone withdrawals because I have had an autoimmune condition since I was 21 years old that led to an opiate addiction. And it was by the time I finally quit, I'm a musician and I couldn't remember, you know, a measure of music to save my life for years. It was really bad. And I credit LSD to helping me to rebuild my brain. These things just all have different functions. I think that, you know, there's a lot of, it rewires the brain and our consciousness. Yes, I tried a little, I can't, ololiki, once in high school. But actually, that's the plant that got me started with my whole fascination with psychoactive plants. I was only in like third grade, and I was in the school library, and there was a book called Flowering Plants that had slipped into the elementary school library because it just had a picture of the heavenly blue morning glory on the cover, and the librarians didn't think anything of it. And it was actually about Datura and Ayahuasca and all of these. But it was just called Flowering Plants. It was a weird title, and it was really thin. It was a small little book. So the ololiki is the plant that first caught my attention, and it didn't really do much. But you know, we're tripping a little bit, and our skin starts turning blue. And we had bought the seeds at like Walmart or somewhere, and you're not really supposed to do that because they coat them in pesticides and antifungals, and so they're not necessarily clean. And so we think we're dying, and it turns out I had the Psychedelics encyclopedia laying around in the room, and I thought to flip it open, and it actually says that there's enough of the dye that ultimately causes the blue flowers in the seeds that your pigment will start to turn blue sometimes if you eat a bunch of them. And so, you know, it scared the hell out of us for a few minutes. But one of the interesting things about lysergic acid diethylamide, which is what is in the morning glory seeds and the baby Hawaiian wood rose, is that LSD is the first time that a chemical was synthesized by people before it was discovered in nature. Lysergic acid diethylamide is the compound that Hoffman synthesized, and nice. I mean, I've heard a lot of really bad reports that that they were either way too strong or lots of headache and dizziness and physical symptoms that kind of discouraged. I mean, I think I know at least 3 people that had their last psychedelic experience with Morning Glory seeds because it was just so strong. They were like, I don't ever fucking want to do that again. You know, that's the end of that for me. Adducts? I don't even know what you mean by that. Adducts? So yeah, LSD discovered in the laboratory and then discovered in nature after the fact. It was the first time that had ever. Yeah, man, that is a great point to make. And vasoconstriction can be really scary. And I'm glad that you just mentioned that because people ask me all the time, like, what should I know before going into an ayahuasca ceremony? And I always kind of feel like, what am I going to tell you that you already haven't heard? You know, like, don't do cocaine. Make sure you know why you're doing it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's just all this, like, generic stuff. But when I first started drinking ayahuasca, I didn't know why you get so cold inside. You know, people occasionally die when they drink ayahuasca. It's, yeah, Kratom's worth buying. Hold on, though. Let me get through this vasoconstrictor thing. So I would, like, when the visions got really strong, I would get really cold, and I thought I was going to die. In fact, I made a video about this, but I had trouble breaking through, so I had this idea the next time I go to ayahuasca ceremony, I'm going to bring some pure DMT and smoke it at the peak of the ceremony. And the facilitator didn't like that very much, but he tolerated it, and it was scary. It was really scary. But I was determined. Like, my mom had committed suicide, and I had all these, like, I knew I was stuck, and I couldn't get up the courage to really try to have a breakthrough, and I knew that I needed to get into that space, that it was important, and I needed to get through this trauma, this new layer of trauma that I had just incurred. And so I just thought, well, I should just smoke DMT, and I knew it was safe. You should not smoke 5-MeO DMT if you have taken MAOI. That's a different thing, and you will die. I heard of one ceremony where supposedly 3 people died because the shaman was just like, he just gave them a bowl of 5-MeO DMT to just smoke during this. Can't do that. 5-MeO DMT is not an dimethyltryptamine. It's a different animal. And so I went up on the hill away from the rest of the group, and I took the first hit, and this tunnel, this warbling tunnel formed in my vision. I could see a light at the end, and I thought, oh no, I'm gonna die, and that's a vagina, and that's my next life. At the end of the tunnel, that light, like, I'm gonna go in down the tunnel, and I got, like, really, really cold, and I was sure that coldness was death coming. Somehow I managed to, like, I knew I have to just push through this, so I took a second hit and just vomited everywhere immediately. And then there was this, like, yellow wall made of all these bright yellow squares, and there was, like, a little entity at the corner of every single square. I didn't make it to the third hit, but the point being that next time someone asks me that, I'm going to tell them just to remember, if you get freezing cold inside, you're not going to die. It's just vasoconstriction. I didn't figure that out for, I had drank 18 times or something, and every time I got, like, that freezing cold sensation inside, I was just terrified that I was about to die, but it turns out it's just vasoconstriction. So, unfortunately, every time you guys ask a question, it just vanishes on the phone. So I'm trying to pull up. YouTube has made all these weird changes. So not only did they demonetize me, which is, of course, obnoxious, and I should mention that if you like this content, it really helps if you support us by at least smashing the like button. You can support us on Patreon and get access to premium content. The reincarnation reveal I just posted there, where I talk about how it is that I discovered who I might have been in a past life. Of course, with the caveat that I'm not necessarily convinced that reincarnation is a real thing. There are always alternative explanations, not limited to the fact that most of the really credible examples of reincarnation are people remembering their ancestors' lives. And so, since we know that genetic recall or genetic memory is a thing, it's not really proof that they're reincarnated. Also, the possibility that there's some sort of like a collective or universal mind that we can access through various means and methods and under certain circumstances. So I'm not like convinced of anything, I guess, is the bullet point of that presentation. It's just, I mean, you guys have to hear the story, but in order to hear the story, you got to go to the Patreon, because partly because I don't want to tell the public this, because a lot of people think this guy is like super evil, and I disagree. But I alienate enough people with the crazy shit I say. It's just a little much. Eventually, I probably will make a proper video where I talk about that. But for the time being, it's patron only. Or you can make a one-time contribution on PayPal. There's a links in the description. The email in the description. You can Zelle or PayPal support. Okay, so you were asking about the property, and then we started to talk about it, and then we got, oh, it's not there, is it? Okay, we'll have to fix that. So you're asking about the property, and let's see, okay. I think I already answered most of it. There's the big property that I'm interested in for conservation purposes because it's so large, self-sustaining. We could probably turn it into a business. There are indigenous communities here, Warani, Quechua. There's a Shipibo woman here somehow, even though she's 1,000 miles outside of Shipibo territory, which is unusual. I mean, the tribes don't really mix much in most places. Puyo is kind of an exception. There are both Quechua and Shuar people there, but the Shuar historically killed everything that moved, and so there's a lot of bad blood, and I think that persists up to, no one's really gotten over it. So, you don't really see Quechua people in Shuar territory. You don't see Sadhguru people in Shuar territory. You don't see Shuar in Quechua territory. You don't see Shipibo outside of Peru. But there's this world-renowned Shipibo healer up the road. And then we have the Quechua and the Warani. And so we're thinking we can do, like indigenous crafts, workshops, and conservation projects, and environmentally friendly gold mining, not gold mining, but like sluicing it out of the river so that there's no environmental damage. Okay, so again, I'm having trouble with the internet here. That's one of the problems with the Amazon rainforest. You just don't really have good internet. Okay, so I think it went that time. Did it? I don't know. It says chat disconnected. I'm not sure. Well, at any rate, I tried to put the wallet address for crypto donations and Zelle and PayPal in the chat just now. I don't know if it worked or not. So then there's another property with the gold mine on it. Yeah, we did talk about this already. I answered that question. So you can email me if you're interested, if you think you might know investors. It doesn't really matter how many people we get involved. I'm thinking I may try to get a hold of like conservation organizations and see if I don't know. I just really want to try to do something about this. There are buildings on the property already. I'm gonna go for the first time and physically check it out in a couple of days. So um, hopefully we can make something happen, because that's what I'm here for. The Amazon rainforest got me through my horrifically violent and poverty-riddled youth, and so it just makes sense that I would, as an adult, come down here and try to help to preserve the traditions of the people I read about as a kid, to try to get through it, and to try to protect the jungle. I mean, it's horrific what's happening here. You know, it's also impossible to really understand what the Amazon rainforest is without coming here. It's like you're on the set of that movie Avatar or something. It's not. It doesn't look real, and there's just so many species of everything that creepeth and crawleth and groweth and bloweth. I mean, on one single log, there might be like 70 species of parasitical plants and fungus and lichen and beetles and you know, I mean, it's just absurd how many crazy ass things there are. I mean, if we went outside right now under the light on the porch, we could probably find 250. That's actually a myth, Terry. The lungs of the earth thing has been thoroughly debunked. It's the Amazon rainforest actually absorbs all of the oxygen that it produces. It's not true that it's the lungs of the earth. It also absorbs most of the water right back, so it just like kind of recycles it all. But the reality is that it is interconnected to other ecosystems all over the planet, and if it goes, we all go. That is true. But the lungs of the earth thing and the oxygen thing, yeah, the ocean actually produces most of the oxygen, I think. But yeah, the lungs of the earth is not. I used to say that too all the time. Oh yeah, Kratom. Okay, so Kratom is choosing the lesser of two evils, basically. For those of you that might be totally unfamiliar, it is a tree from Southeast Asia, Thailand, Borneo, Vietnam, Indonesia. Did I say that already? And it is addictive. It's a opioid agonist or something. It's not an opiate, but it's like almost an opiate, or it's very closely related to opiates, mitragina or mitragina. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. And so it works on the same receptors that opiates do. And it has a similar effect. It doesn't get you nearly as high. Like, you're not going to be nodding out and vomiting. Well, if you eat it on an empty stomach without a tolerance, it is the worst thing that will ever happen to you, just about. It is worse than any flu I've ever had. It was the most horrific, like, 4 hours of my entire life. It is so bad. If you take too much kratom on an empty stomach, you will wish you were dead. Once you have a tolerance, you can eat it first thing in the morning and it's fine. But if you're trying to get off of heroin, or you're trying to get off of Suboxone, or you're trying to get off of whatever narcotics, kratom is a godsend. It is infinitely better for you than pharmaceutical opiates. And I cannot believe, I can believe it because it's a threat to big pharma, and it's also proof of how corrupt the United States is. But they are making it a Schedule 1 there, and that means that it is just as illegal as crystal methamphetamine or heroin or whatever. So kratom is definitely worth your money if you have pain. or if you are exhausted all the time like me, I have autoimmune, and now from all the pharmaceutical drugs that I took when I was younger because of the autoimmune condition, I have a severely damaged liver. So I feel awful all the time. And actually, I shouldn't take kratom either because it's been known to cause severe liver damage if you take too much of it. And so I'm assuming that if you already have liver damage, it's probably not a feasible option. But if you have an opiate problem, you can walk right out of it with kratom. And kratom still has withdrawals, but they're not nearly as bad as heroin or. You know what? I don't like this lighting. Okay, that's a little better for me at least. Anyways, I usually do this upstairs in my hammock, but there's some kind of big bee-looking thing flying around the light up there, so I just, oh, okay, 5-MeO DMT. 5-MeO DMT is, I've told this story on the channel before, so if you're a regular, I apologize for being redundant, but this is a new name. Super dank gorilla grows for personal use? No. No. There is one thing that I have occasionally encountered here that is that is cool is landrace unhybridized. Man, I wish my chat was working because I can see that you guys are interacting with me and I can't. The problem is the internet is old and janky, and so the computer recognizes that it's not safe, and it keeps turning it off. So I'm losing my chat constantly, and so that's why I'm always doing this, because I have to disconnect and reconnect in order to pull the chat back up. So there are landrace sativas that are unhybridized, and that's really nice because when the only or you know when it's like mostly THC and there's not as much CBD or CBN. And hopefully no tetrahydrocannabivarinol because I really hate that stuff. That's the cannabinoid that causes the amphetamine type effect where it's like really racing and it causes this sound that you can hear that is like you know when you pull Velcro, like that's how it feels inside. It's like but you can feel it, and it's like the worst. Super annoying. I don't like it at all. So no, there's not any dank weed here. There's none ever. It's always brown, moldy, shitty brickweed. And then there are some jungle grows, but the sativas are generally not very strong. So, it's nice because they're 100% unhybridized landrace sativas, but they're not very potent. Okay, so 5-MeO DMT. I'll tell you the monk story from Terence McKenna. And this is, I'm always talking about how there are a lot of people that say that like psychedelics are fake spirituality or that the enlightenment that you acquire from them is not legitimate. And I really take issue with that. And when I meet psychedelic minds, I'm blown away by them pretty consistently. Robert Anton Wilson, Timothy Leary, Terence McKenna, Jerry Garcia, and even just random ass people in California that you talk to them for like a minute and you're like, holy fucking crap, I can't believe the shit this ninja just said. Like just crazy, mind blowing. And I don't get that from like Buddhist monks or anyone else really. It's like I'm not impressed. So I just don't think that the evidence really supports that these other traditions are actually superior somehow to psychedelic traditions, and I think it's also kind of ridiculous. I think that it is a skill that you have to acquire to navigate the psychedelic space and to bring back models, to have the capacity to articulate those models, to describe them. And so I will prove that borrowing an anecdote from Terence McKenna. And also, I would just offer read like the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson and compare that to like a book by the Dalai Lama or something. I mean, blow him out of the fucking water. But so Terrence's story was that this. Yeah, it is, man, and I'm really tired of people condescending and like we're just all on drugs. I think our definition of drugs is kind of stupid too. It's like there is a universe and there is consciousness and there are things that interact with that consciousness. Some of those are chemical and some of those chemicals are already inside of us and some of them are external to us, but that's not really relevant. Like, it's like sleeping is no different than taking LSD or something. It's just another state of consciousness. And, lucid dreaming is something people have to learn over years. I can take ayahuasca and take care of a group of people. Most Buddhist monks, the first time they drink ayahuasca, are going to go through the same thing that I did. They're going to collapse on the ground and not be able to move and not be able to function. And, it's just another art form that you have to learn to master, and it should be respected just like anything else. And I think that the literature and the conversations and the art suggest that it's a reasonable argument to make that the psychedelic minds are more advanced than any other. So the monk story. Okay, well, I would not use DMT as the this is like when you're fighting anxiety and depression, you need to work up to that. That's not. It's like you have a mouse in your house and you're dropping an atom bomb on your house instead of setting a rat trap. You'll kill the mouse, but you're gonna blow your house to bits too, and you might kill yourself as well in the process. I mean, that's just not the place to start. DMT is the pinnacle. It's the peak of the mountain. I've seen people start their psychedelic experience career with DMT, but it's also kind of backwards because you're like it's all downhill from there or something, So what I would recommend in the case of having, I mean, you just listed a lot of issues that you need to overcome, and putting that all together and just dropping some DMT on it is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. What you need to do is start out with like moderate doses of psilocybin and combined with meditative practices. One of the things you can do to facilitate the process of rewiring your brain is to master pranayama, because one of the fuels that the brain uses to reconfigure, reconstruct, to wire, to program its fuel is oxygen. And deprivation of oxygen can lead to the altered states that facilitate transcendental experiences. And so if you take a moderate dose of LSD or psilocybin and combine that with pranayama, focusing on your purpose or your intent during the, so pranayama, you're inhaling until you have completely filled and then retaining, and then exhaling until you have completely, and it's very important to empty the lungs all the way to the bottom and hold this out. And so you'll have a cycle of maybe, like in the Hermetic mystery tradition, like occult secret societies. Usually magicians will start with every ritual with the fourfold breath, it's called, which is just pranayama in cycles of 4. So 4 seconds in, hold, 4 seconds out, and you have to time it so you get all the way full, hold 4 seconds, blow all of it out in 4 seconds, hold it out. And so while you're blowing out that which does not serve you, what you're trying to expel, you're focusing on, and getting it all the way to the bottom of the dirty old stale air. And then during the inhalation, you are focusing on what you're trying to retain and what you're trying to develop. And as you hold the oxygen in, if you have taken a substance such as psilocybin or LSD that enhances the neuroplasticity and the neurogenesis, and neuroplasticity is the capacity for the brain to rewire itself, the malleability of the neuronal circuits, right? And the neurogenesis is new neural pathways. Brain cells even are being regenerated. Damaged, shriveled brain cells, which is what happens to them from alcoholism, excessive marijuana use, depression does it. They literally shrivel up. So if you take psilocybin, and it's the only compound that's known to rejuvenate damaged brain cells. There actually are experiments at Johns Hopkins going on right now where they're trying to resuscitate brain dead people because they're thinking that because they actually cause new brain cells to grow and can rejuvenate damaged cells, that there's no reason you can't wake up comatose people. Another interesting aspect of that, sorry about that, my phone stand, I haven't been able to go to the city since we got a new phone, and it doesn't like this apple shape, so it falls out sometimes. And going to the city is kind of a hassle for me, so I don't do it a lot. I guess I'll just have to hold it. Okay, so where are we at with that? Okay, so as you're breathing in and focusing on, I did this with cigarettes. I quit smoking cigarettes in like 2 hours. I started smoking when I was 9. I smoked every day. 2 hours of LSD and pranayama. The next day, I only remembered that I smoked cigarettes because I found a patch of tobacco in my pocket. So this works that well. Okay, you can totally rewire your brain in a couple of hours, and it doesn't matter what you're rewiring. It could be pedophilia, it could be drug addiction, it could be, whatever, PTSD. And this isn't just like my experience or my opinion. The researchers in the 60s, Humphrey Osmond, Dr. Humphrey Osmond, this is actually a direct quote from him. He said that the psychedelics can cure nearly every or possibly every psychological aberration known to man, oftentimes with a single dose. And the government, hearing this, said, Big Pharma got on the phone and said, go down there with guns and shut this shit the fuck down right now. You know what I mean? It's like the biggest threat to their mind control and their money ever, So they didn't like it. One of the biggest lies ever that the researchers told them that, oh no, these are drugs that'll make people insane and they're super dangerous and you need to ban them. That's not what happened. That's the opposite of what happened. The researchers said this is a fucking miracle, and the government said make it illegal and throw all these hippies in jail. When you're inundating the brain with oxygen, which is the fuel that it needs to build the neural pathways and to make new connections and to do its thing, and you're retaining the oxygen while you've taken these compounds that have enhanced the neuroplasticity and are causing neurogenesis to occur at 100 times to 1,000 times the normal rate, and you have interregional communication of the brain that is just not happening otherwise. The default brain region communicating with the other part, I can't remember at the moment what it's called, and electrical activity in parts of the brain that we never use otherwise. There's no electrical activity even in the brains of experienced meditators. Your capacity to rewire your mind I think part of the reason that this is really, it has a hard time getting traction is that it's just too much. It's hard to believe that psychedelics could actually do what they have been demonstrated clinically for decades now to actually be capable of doing. What do you mean they only made it punishable by 1 year in in jail. Well, I was pranayama. I don't know what Wim breathing is. That's probably some modern variation that somebody has concocted. But yeah, that's basically it. Yep. Man, my chat is disconnected over here again, so I can't see your questions. Yeah, so what I was saying is that DMT might be a bit much under your circumstances, but I think if you use like 100 micrograms of LSD combined with pranayama, you can address your issues. You don't need help. You don't need a fucking thing except for 100 micrograms of acid and determination and sit and breathe and rewire your brain. It will do whatever you tell it to. And this is another extraordinary thing to consider. This very hotly disputed concept in physics that is generally based on the double slit experiment. That the idea is that consciousness somehow has an effect on subatomic particles. It's actually not nearly as the evidence isn't really there. The New Age movement, there's a lot of money in telling people things they want to hear, so it's largely been misconstrued. Oh yeah, 5-MeO. Okay, we'll get back to that. But what I'm saying is that clearly energy moves at the direction of our intent. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to learn anything. You wouldn't be able to move your hand around. Obviously, it's true to some extent. Clearly, subatomic particles have some relationship to consciousness. You guys see that? That's what's happening right here. See? Look at that. It's a fucking consciousness moving matter. Magic, causing change in conformity with will. It's a real thing. It's a branch of physics. Okay, so 5-MeO DMT and the story. This is how I think we can shut up the people that criticize psychedelics and claim that meditation is superior. I think that as an adjunct to psychedelics, meditation is great. But I don't think that the people that I know that meditate without taking psychedelics are even in the same class as the people that have used psychedelics correctly. Like, they're not even on the same evolutionary rung. Like, not even close. None of them. 0%. 1,200 micrograms fasting for 7 days. I mean, you're going to turn into light and become part of the universal mind for a few hours, and hopefully you won't injure yourself. I don't know. I mean, what do you mean? Okay, so 5-MeO. We got it. You guys are throwing too much at me. I can't. I wouldn't try microdosing necessarily. I would try threshold dosing. I don't think that microdosing really does much, and clinical studies suggest that it absolutely is not really good for anything, because the placebo group had the same outcome. So I'm not saying that you have to take enough to actually trip, but if you mean microdosing in the sense that you have absolutely no effect at all, I haven't derived any real measurable benefit from that, and studies have concluded that there's no difference from a placebo group, and I think, people argue and say, well, I tried it and I experienced a difference. That just sounds like someone that doesn't understand that placebos have an effect. It's just not as much as a thing that actually does something. So, I mean, my advice is that if you're going to try to use microdosing, that you use just enough to where you feel a little bit of an effect, like maybe a little bit stronger than coffee. So, I mean, I think I'm still talking about microdosing, but it's not like the Breckenridge, Colorado yuppie microdosing that, or, Silicon Valley white person, golf shoes, dress shirt, hybrid car microdosing. It's not that. So 5-MeO-DMT story with the monk. So N,N-dimethyltryptamine is the form of DMT that we have in our cerebrospinal fluid. It's not a neurotransmitter. It's probably a, I can't remember the word right now. It's too late at night. But it's when chemicals combine and then there's something, when two things are combined and a third thing is generated. I just can't remember the word at the moment. Or it's a metabolite, but it's not a neurotransmitter, which is a common misconception. There's also no proof that it is produced in the pineal gland. That is a rumor. It may be true, but there's no proof. There's no evidence of it. Also, the breathing to produce DMT is probably complete bullshit, because if you consider how much DMT there is in the cerebrospinal fluid and how much is like a breakthrough dose, there's not enough in the entire body, much less any way to concentrate it in the brain specifically in order to produce that kind of an effect. So those ads you see on Facebook with the new age hippie girl telling you that she will teach you how to breathe in order to release DMT for $1,000, she's ripping you off. Yeah, I've been stuck in loops before, but never from DMT. Mescaline, Huacuma, and it's always the same loop. LSD, I was stuck in that loop the other day. Even with all my experience, you guys, you know, I've never been overwhelmed by LSD until very recently, and it wasn't a very high dose. So, you know, you really just have to be careful with these things. It is true that it's like rock climbing or race car driving, or you know, it's true that meditation's a lot safer. I don't think you get as far. I really don't. I don't think, and plus, I think we need to become more enlightened as a society and as a culture. But we have careers. We are busy. It's true, LSD can do it. We don't have time to sit and meditate our entire lives in order to achieve the level of illumination that we need to save our society and our culture and our planet. So along comes DMT to push us further and faster than the old technologies ever can. I think the denial of psychedelics as a superior catalyst to consciousness than any of the old stuff, like meditation, is like saying that, you know, a Bentley is faster than a Lamborghini. It's just not, you know, because things evolve. All things evolve. Techniques evolve. Our tools evolve. Our technologies evolve. And psychedelics are a catalyst to consciousness. And so it's evolution, man. Get with the program. Okay, so the 5-MeO-DMT monk story, speaking of this meditation versus psychedelics, and of course they go together like butt cheeks. Don't get me wrong; they're good for each other. But okay, so N,N-dimethyltryptamine, which is the one from Mimosa, and Psychotria viridis, the plant that we use in Ecuador to make ayahuasca that contains DMT, chalipanga or chalipagra, is or Cabarena diplopteris, Cabarena diplopteris. It has 5-MeO-DMT and N,N-dimethyltryptamine, which most people don't know is a thing even. Everyone thinks that chacruna and B copy are ayahuasca, and actually the real ayahuasca is real ayahuasca is with chalipanga. Ayahuasca is not from Peru. Ayahuasca is from Aki, in fact, Aka, like right there. It's a Quechua word, and it originated here with Chalipanga and Banisteriopsis copy. So really, even though it's much lesser known, the authentic drink is the one we serve here in Quechua territory. Although the Quechua usually serve it with so little Chalipanga in it that you just vomit all night, and there's almost no psychedelic effect at all. People compare it to being drunk. But when I make it, it's I use way too much Charlie Ponga on purpose. A pharmacology is cool. Well, let me know if I can help. I know a lot about those aspects of it, I guess. Okay, so the monk story, man, I just cannot get to this. So N-dimethyltryptamine is not the same as 5-MeO-DMT. They're both dimethyltryptamine, but they are, in effect, substantially different. 5-MeO-DMT is way more dangerous, and it's way more powerful, and it's not so psychedelic. N-DMT is the one that has you, talking to, you're in the waiting room, and the jokers, what are they called? The jesters show up giving you the middle finger, and you know what I mean? Those guys, those assholes are always in the beginning, like, there's like 3 veils, and in the first waiting room, everything's orange and pulsating, and the jesters are giving you the finger. And then you go beyond that, and you're like in a room that has all these geometries, and it's much more beautiful and colorful. And there might be like praying mantises taking the top of your head off and like messing around in your brain. And God only knows. I mean, so many crazy fucking things happen in there. And then beyond that veil, you are in this place where human emotion breaks down. We don't have language to describe a lot of the things that are happening because we live in like a 4D space, and things are happening in this realm in 22 dimensions or whatever. So we can't even really talk about it when you come back. But 5-MeO-DMT takes you much further than that to what the Buddhist monks have called nirvana, I think. And it actually is that. I've been there once. And it was incredible. I mean, in the Western mystery tradition, there's a practice called rising through the planes, which is ascending through these various levels of consciousness that correspond to those in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And so you can experience rising through the planes, and then suddenly you break through that into this like white light, and people refer to it much of the time as unity consciousness. And so in this place, there's no time, there is no desire, there is no will, there is no nothing. It's just nothing. And I mean, it's incredible, but then also I can see how it's just nothing. So the introduction of something is what caused the descent into matter, right? The division, the shadow, the line. So anyways, the point being, 5-MeO-DMT takes you way further than N-DMT. So according to Terence McKenna, he met with a Tibetan master Buddhist monk, and he happened to have some DMT because he was Terence fucking McKenna. And he gave it to the monk, and the monk smoked it, and he came back, and the monk said, "That's as far as you can go and still come back," with all kinds of pompous, pretentious certainty, I'm sure. Do you guys see the problem? That's not as far as you can go and still come back. And these guys, the Tibetan monks, are supposed to be the goats of consciousness. It's apparently not the case. So the next time some, pretentious Buddhist tells you that your psychedelic practices are not legitimate and that meditation will take you further than psychedelics ever will, you just tell them that monk story and, tell them to shove their singing bowl up their ass. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but it is really obnoxious, and it's something that I've had to tolerate my entire life. People laughing at my assertion. The second time I took LSD, I told my friends that I was with that I thought it could treat any mental illness on the planet. And they do have huge spiritual egos. They do, and one of the things that anytime that people get the totality of their ontology from a prepackaged system, I don't care what they think. I don't care. I mean, really, I don't care what anyone thinks, but because it's supposed, real gnosis is an organic process that comes from practices, that comes from experience. And if it's totally free from dogma and unperturbed by the winds of influence, like a ripple in still water when there is no pebble toss nor wind to blow. I was just talking about this in a live stream the other day, but I just watched this Buddhist monk. Some lady was talking to him, and he kept saying like, "Well, we think, we say." That's like cult, you know. As soon as I hear that shit, I don't care. Uncrypted? What does that mean? Randy watching Bush. Some of the names that people come up with for their handles, man. My psychology contains the ego? Well, sure. I mean, ego is just identity. What do you mean, not the spirit? I don't think that's fair at all. I mean, you really think that, Kensho? You've been following me forever. I mean, I think that's complete nonsense. And I also think that the idea that dissolving your ego is the way to spiritual attainment is complete shit too. That is how you create a homogenous, pacifist, easily ruled, dominated. That's like dominator culture spirituality. That's why Buddhism was institutionalized and accepted by. It's why it's one of the big five religions. The ego, you must define the ego is your identity. Having a healthy relationship with the ego is well, yeah, billionaire psychonauts are right up my alley, man. That's but yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely somewhat influenced by left-hand path magicians like Aleister Crowley. I'm not about being self-serving. In fact, the irony is that working in the interest of the collective is what actually serves the individual interest the best. So if you really want to be a master left-hand path occultist, what you need to do is serve the collective, because in the long run, that is what is going to empower you the best. Without the collective wealth generation in the United States, they never would have built that empire. And it's only the fact that they've concentrated the wealth too much that it's falling apart. It's just delusion to think that being totally self-serving is actually self-serving. Yourself is splintered into like 8 billion pieces. And I think honestly that's part of the reason why humanity has kind of devolved, because it's like it's diluted. It's become too fragmented. Population reduction is not necessarily a bad thing. No, I wasn't kidding, dude. I have no problem with... I mean, I do have problems with billionaires because there's no reason to be a billionaire. If you're a billionaire, yeah, it's pretty much white light. Yeah, but no, it was more like nothingness. I mean, my experience of it was like, it was like bluish white light, and then there was nothing. Like, it's totally indescribable. It's not even clear, I guess. It's just, there was just nothing. I just ceased to exist. Which I've experienced ceasing to exist two different ways. The Dmt Nirvana experience was like clear, peaceful nothingness. But one time I drank a lot of San Pedro, and I became one, like sort of like, it was like a tesseract, the shape that exists in 5 dimensions. So it's also got a dimension in time, so you can never see the whole thing all at once. It's not that it's not always there, it's just that one of the dimensions of its form is time, in time, so you can only see part of it from a point of view in time. You understand what I mean? It's really one thing doing one thing. So in the same way that you can't observe something from a certain point in space without moving around it, the same happens with temporal shifts. Do you understand what I mean? It's a... I didn't quite follow that. You want to try again? I don't think that psychedelics are breaking sobriety. That's not true. I cannot conceive of someone. I used to be addicted to painkillers, and it's because I've taken psychedelics and rewired my brain. I can actually take painkillers now and then not want to take them if I don't need them. Like, you can buy codeine here, even in Miss Hawaii, in the middle of the jungle. I can just go to the store, buy codeine. If I feel bad enough, I will, and if I don't need it, I don't get it. And it's because I've rewired my brain after the pill addiction, and I've dealt with the traumas that caused the addiction. That's a huge thing. Our understanding of addiction, and again, it's really important to understand this isn't just my opinion. The most recent studies into addiction have come to the same conclusion that I'm offering you right now. The old understanding that once you were addicted to something, if you repeated the behavior, you would just fly off the handle and become an addict again, is not real. It's not true. It is true if you don't address the core trauma that caused the addiction in the first place, then you cannot dabble. But if you deal with the trauma that caused the addiction, then you can become a normal person and alter your consciousness without consequence. I know this for certain, and this is what the most recent advances in understanding of addiction are telling us. And psychedelics, because of their capacity to rewire the brain, people have got to get it all the way through their heads and understand. It's a lack of understanding of neuroscience and how it works that is what causes people to doubt this, I guess. And I guess it also just seems like it's just too much to believe or something, too good to be true. But when you rewire a bad neurocircuit, it's as if it never happened, okay? So if your mother was so abused that she was severely damaged, and you put up an emotional firewall between you and emotions to protect yourself from your mother, and I'm using my own life as an example here, and then you take ayahuasca with bobinsana in it, and you open your heart again, and you heal this trauma, and you vomit out all of this crap that you've been carrying around with you your whole life, and then you rewire the brain during another session where your neuroplasticity is so enhanced that you can just fix something if you know what you're doing or you have a really good guide. And this is, again, not my opinion. A recent study at Johns Hopkins, the lead researcher said it is simply unprecedented in the history of psychiatry that a medicine can cure psychological aberrations and addictions in a single dose, the way that psychedelics do. Unprecedented in the history of psychiatry at Johns Hopkins, okay? So, sure, I've been saying this since I was 15 years old, but now scientists are saying it too. You no longer have to take the word of weirdos with long hair that psychedelics are amazing medicine. There is corroboration from the mainstream medical industry now. Facts. It's just facts. So I think that's what that comment was about, that, meditation and sobriety and blah, blah, blah. Those people are nowhere near as advanced as the people that use psychedelics. That's my only argument. And that's fine for some people. But if you're an artist, a philosopher, a musician, or someone that needs to have this sort of like elevated consciousness in order to produce meaningful, and by meaningful from my point of view, I mean like gnosis catalyzing art, like the music of Tool or the art of Alex Gray or the Grateful Dead's music, or, I don't know what else, but that type of stuff that pushes humanity forwards. You know what I mean? Like, right, so, damn, it's getting late, man. Look, I know some of you guys have already heard this plug, but I know some of you are new too. If you appreciate this content, we really do appreciate your support because we've been demonetized. I've been on YouTube for 4 hours or something today, partly because we're trying to raise money to acquire this rainforest property so that we can conserve it I'm also here working with indigenous people, trying to help them learn to use cryptocurrency. Because, you know, for example, the other day I put $30 in a HODL. I got on the computer. A few hours later, it was $300. So if you have $30,000 for conservation and you would put that in a HODL and it's done 1,400% in a few days, we can really use cryptocurrency to empower. Also, I have Safe DMT, a new cryptocurrency company that is donating to charities, psychedelic research. That they want to help me get the different, like the Shuar Federation and these organizations that work with the indigenous for indigenous rights or conservation, and set them all up with wallets so they can start getting donations of Litecoin and so I'm down here doing good work, and I'm not getting paid anything from YouTube. So there are, for contributions, there are emails in the description for Zelle and PayPal, and then we have Cash App, and we have a Bitcoin wallet. And I'm trying to get the chat working again, and it just will not. I don't know what's up, man. The internet is just not going to work on the computer for some reason. So if you have asked any questions in the last few minutes, you're going to have to repeat them because I don't have a thing I can look at anymore. I got to hold an anaconda today. That was nuts. I have been in love with anacondas since I was a small child. And I went down to the river today and there was one. Did I put it on the, oh no, I put the picture with the Warani lady on the thumbnail. Tomorrow, if you guys are on YouTube, if I live stream again, I'll use the anaconda picture. Also, you guys keep an eye out. I'm going to start another channel for my nature stuff, because I got demonetized on this channel and it's cost us a lot of money, and I don't like that very much because we're in the jungle trying to survive, and that was like our main source of income. So I'm starting I mean, since this isn't the only reason I'm doing it, I want to encourage people to invest in, like, you know, values investing, green energy, and conscious cryptocurrencies that are raising money for charity, because cryptocurrencies, that's really rare. Anacondas generally don't tame very well, so you got lucky. This one didn't try to bite me at all either. But cryptocurrencies, because I mean, it's crazy. You watch the money roll in, the numbers are huge, and they're just, if you sit on the charts and just watch how fast it is, if these people are even giving away 5% to charities, then it's a tremendous amount of money. So it really is an unprecedented, yeah, of course I've heard about ceremonial cacao. There's cacao trees growing on the side of the road. It's crazy. Look, here's cacao right here. This is a cacao pod. Let me see if I can dig out. A lot of people don't even realize this. This is where chocolate comes from. Before it is fermented and dried, it's actually like a tropical fruit, and it has caffeine, B vitamins, phenethylamines, which is like MDMA class of drugs, very mild. Aren't they rear fang poisonous too, eastern hognose snakes? I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. The coral snakes here are rear fanged, and you can get bit by them, and usually it won't be a problem. I mean, if they get you, it is, but the fangs puncture as they're swallowing, so it's generally fine. Okay, so the cacao though, also it's very nutrient rich. There's all kinds of good stuff in there. And it causes a serotonin dump. I mean, everyone knows that if you eat chocolate, but when you eat it before it's even been, like, you know, cooked or, and the taste of it, the white pithy stuff is like, almost like pineapple and coconut, but it's better. And I mean, you know, there are cacao shamans. Honestly, I've never really felt like an altered state from it, but I have at the end of like a Wachuma ceremony at the top of a mountain in the blistering heat all day, and my girlfriend has made some coconut milk cacao like blended with cardamom and cinnamon and honey and you know, the coconut milk is made from like blended coconut fat, pretty much. It's the most amazing thing, and it definitely does improve your mood and give you energy. And for the Incas and the Mayans, it was staple food. It was one of the main things that they ate. So yeah, cacao is the shit. I actually have it's across the room, and the phone is gonna like break out of this thing if I let go of it, or I'd go get it. But I bought a another vegetable that I've never seen in my life from the jungle. I can't remember what the Quechua woman said it was actually called, but it's the carrot of the jungle, is what she called it in Spanish. Crazy how much food there is in the jungle. And you know, the book of Genesis, sometimes it just seems like they were talking about like people drinking ayahuasca in the Amazon rainforest. If you follow Graham Hancock or Joe Rogan, you may have seen the episode recently where they were talking about how the Amazon is actually like a man-made garden. It's not actually natural. Nothing really grows well here. It's true that I mean, the cacao, like in other places, cacao is a bush. Here in the Amazon rainforest, they are trees, and it actually is like wild. You know, I thought it's just so delicious and crazy that I just thought it's got to be like bread. But hiking around in the jungle, it's definitely just growing in the jungle, like these cacao pods, and you can just pick them and bust it open and eat it, and it's everywhere. And then, of course, you know, the palms are loaded with all kinds of different fruits. There's a bunch of different palms. No, I will not get a vaccine. Hell no, I won't get a vaccine. Why would I? I mean, I'm not really healthy, but I'm not old, I'm not fat, and I've already had COVID. So, I mean, why would I get a vaccine? And also, by the way, no one wears masks here in the jungle. No one would do that. Like, there are people that come from the city that wear them, but they just, if you get sick here, and there are old gringos here that are totally normal people, like not ayahuasca drinking, you know, what would you call it? I'm like a Matrix expat or something. Well, I was never even in it, so I don't know, you know, not people like me, out of the box people, normal people that would get vaccines and believe the mainstream narrative, and they've noticed that if you get sick, you can just drink the jungle juice, they call it. That's what the gringos, the white people here, all three of them, call this really bitter, like, I mean, there are different ones, and usually, honestly, the only name that the indigenous will have for them is like how many plants are in them. So it's like, well, this one is ocho plantas, and this one is 24 plantas. You know, that's it. This one has 8 plants. This one's 24 plants. They all have ayahuasca, every single one of them. And ayahuasca has actually now been tested for its like physical curative properties to some extent, and it is definitely a very powerful anti-inflammatory, and it does boost the immune system like more than any other plant on earth or something, like really, really significantly. And that's interesting because the indigenous people say that it's like a vaccine. And so the other, I guess, belief about how it works is that ayahuasca opens even small doses of it. So you don't have to be like tripping balls in order to open your energetic field, I guess, to the influence of the other plants that are added to the ayahuasca to create the healing effect. So ayahuasca is kind of like the basis for all these other plants. Or it's like the sun and the other plants are like orbiting it. But it's like the central thing in the medicines. And so if you have like beriberi or dengue fever or COVID or whatever, the shaman will just come over, or he usually won't, he'll just send his wife over. Yeah, if you're looking for clinical research papers on, um, I don't know what Survival International is. Uh, if you're looking for clinical research papers on entheogens, um, is it NCIB, I think, or NHIB? I can't remember that. It's like National Health Bureau, NCIB. Let me see. I mean, usually if you just type like psychedelic research, I think you'll get this NCBI maybe. Nice. No, not PubMed. It's like NCIB. I think he was right about, or it's NH. Let's see. Let's see. No, I don't think that's it. Or you could join my psychedelics, entheogens, and plant medicine group on Facebook, and there's links for all kinds of stuff there. Who's one and the same? NCBI, yeah, NCBI. Yeah, anything and everything, man. The neurological studies, and then once you get into their search, just like ayahuasca and inflammation, particularly I think neuroinflammation, which is a bigger problem than people realize. If you have inflammation issues, they're going to affect your brain, and that's not good. So you don't want that, and ayahuasca fixes it. But the point is that if you get sick, no matter what it is, the shaman comes and gives you these plants, and then you're better. And of course, in our matrix world of modern culture, people scoff and laugh at the primitives that believe that these plants can heal them. And then their pharmaceutical companies send ethnobotanists down here to figure out what plants the indigenous people are using. And then they take these plants back to the laboratories owned by the pharmaceutical companies, who then make analogs that can be, oh, I see, okay, all right. That can be, what do you call it when they make ownership legal of the compounds? Brain's just dead. Patented, right? So, fucking white people, I mean, like, oh, ha, ha, silly savages using your plant medicine. We'll take your plants and make synthetic compounds out of them and act like we're superior. Yeah, well, I figured out patents already. We got there. But yeah, how dumb is that, too, like, people just, like, laughing at the idea that plants can actually cure you. And they're literally getting their medicines that the pharmaceutical companies make from those plants. And then if you actually look it up, where they've done the clinical research on the plant medicine, because I was doing a video on an ethnobotanical tour that we did in Puyo a while back, and I wanted to see if there was research on all these jungle plants, and there was, and every single fucking study said indigenous use is basically entirely confirmed. So you can take your vaccines and shove them right up your ass. Like, I don't need it. You don't need it. You might think you do, but you don't. And I'm sure there are all kinds of gnarly ass viruses here in the jungle. But the first thing the babies get in their mouth before even their mother's milk is ayahuasca. Not a lot of it, but they put it on the nipple before the baby is attached to it when it's born, because it powers up their nervous system. There's also a plant that they give the baby as well, with the ayahuasca drop, that causes I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this really black shit that's just nothing but toxins and crap in the lower intestines of the baby that is like purged out by this plant, and they're super healthy. And now the researchers that are looking at this are starting to think that that's got a lot to do with it, that they actually have this plant they give to purge the baby as soon as it's born. And then also they give the babies ayahuasca immediately. And their immune system is immediately kicked into hyper overdrive. What is my diet like? Well, I eat piranhas. Actually, if you guys want to see something really, really cool, how shamans use datura. We can talk about that. If you guys want to see something really cool, look at the eating a dinosaur video on my channel. It's not clickbait. It's actually a dinosaur, like literally a dinosaur. It's a fish that hasn't evolved in 500 million years at least, and it's sort of like a catfish, but it has an armor plate. And I'm not talking like scales that are just kind of hard. It looks like a tank or something, like an armored car or something, and the scale armor plates are so hard that I was like, before it snapped, you know, like all my strength and like grunting and pushing, like just trying to break a little piece in half. It was absolutely insane. Their eyes are like sunk way down inside the armor so that nothing can be harmed, like completely crazy. And I bought it at the market. I didn't really look at it until I got home. And then I got the thing out. I was like, what the fuck is this thing, you know? They're called karachamas. So I eat dinosaurs. And cacao, which I just spilled all over the... and I eat a lot of palm... I eat a lot of palm nuts and palm fruits, and I eat sometimes palm hearts, although I don't like to encourage that because you have to actually cut down a palm tree to get them. I eat chantacura, which are big, giant, fat grubs. I think I've heard that guy's name before. Chantacuras, they live in the palms. Well, they don't really. You cut the palm tree down, and they ferment, and it stinks, man. When you walk by the Quechua and they're got their machetes and they're chopping the fucking tree open to get the grubs out, it smells so overpowering, fermented weirdness. Since we moved to this side of the river, I don't drink it as often, but I also like to consume a lot of chicha, which is a beverage that is made from saliva. And yeah, COVID safe in the Amazon, no. And guess what? We're not sick. So there are two types. One of the types of chicha is made from chewing the palm fruit, which kind of, if you just eat it, it tastes like pumpkin kind of or something. I eat a lot of avocado, chicken. Here, I'll show you something else that's kind of weird. I'll go grab it. Also, there are jungle peanuts here. I think peanuts are actually from here, but they're way better than the ones that you guys have. So this thing is like a palm nut. They're so full of like fatty omegas and just like plant fats that they're like, I mean, you guys probably can't see it, but look, see it sticking to me? Like the shell is just greasy. So they're so good for your brain. That's one of the incredible things about the food here. Oh, by the way, the chantacura is also supposed to be medicinal, anti-inflammatory. It's supposed to be good for your throat. So it's like a medicinal maggot that is in the palm trees that you have to cut them down and let it sit for a couple of months, a month and a half, and then you cut it open and you pull all the chantacuras out. And so this palm nut that I just ate is like really soft, really, really fatty. This thing is super cool. It's a palm nut too. Let me see if I can There's not actually much food in here, but can you see that? Let's see if I can, where's the camera? There's like a little bit of purple, like, it kind of has the same consistency as like avocado. And like, that is all nut. There's just like this like 1 millimeter of like purple squishy stuff in there. Where do I stand on veganism? I mean, life feeds on life, feeds on life. This is necessary. Let the rabbits wear glasses. I don't know if you guys get that reference to the hidden track on Tool's second album, but I mean, I don't know what people are thinking really. The problem, in my opinion, is commercial farming of any kind, industrial farming. If you eat animals that spend their entire life in that state of fear and misery, and also they feed them all these antibiotics and chemicals and not a good choice. It's not prudent. I wouldn't do it. So, well, look, I don't think having a static identity is like something you identify with like that is healthy, really. I try not to do that. I don't say like I am this way and then conform to it. I don't think that defining ourselves according to limitations or even tradition is really wise. Survival of the fittest is really kind of a lie. It's actually survival of the most adaptable. And so being willing to change, like just because you have been conditioned to believe that something is good or correct, it doesn't mean that it is. And all you have to do is look around the planet and see all the people that are doing things that you know are wrong, that they've been conditioned to believe are right. The problem is that most people recuse themselves from this and say, well, you know, that doesn't apply to me, but if you take some steps to resolve your cognitive dissonance, cognitive bias, and selective perception, and develop the ability to analyze yourself objectively and holistically, you will discover that you're doing it as well. And so just saying I'm from the South and we eat everything is, you know, I mean, oh, you don't mean like industrial food, you mean like meat, and okay, well that's different. Okay, I was misunderstanding. I thought you were referring, because I was talking about industrial farming, I thought you were saying, fuck it, we'll just eat all that horrible toxic shit that's destroying the planet. That's not good. But sure, yeah, eat everything. I mean, everything will eat you, you know? I mean, there's all kinds of shit everywhere that just wants to eat everything. I mean, plants eat you. Plants are going to eat you. You're being farmed by plants so that when you die, they can eat you. You know? That's a true fact. Mushrooms, people eat mushrooms, and then mushrooms eat people. I mean, then, yeah, turtles, gators, crayfish, squirrels. I've eaten all of those things except for squirrels, but I've definitely eaten rattlesnakes as well. So what I'm saying is that the turbines, is that what they're called, that they harvest the soy with, vultures fly around behind them because they are killing every motherfucking thing there is. Endangered species, turtles, frogs, ducks, fucking whatever, everything is just getting mangled to pieces, and then they fly around and eat it all. So if you think you're saving lives by eating soy burgers, you're out of your fucking mind. It's vegans are at least as destructive as anything else. So if that's your reason, then it's not really, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I believe that people should be able to make their own decisions, but I think for the most part, when I see vegans, I can look at somebody and say, well, that's a vegan. And some people say, well, you know, it's because they're not doing it right, or, and also, I mean, every single vegan that I know that has started eating meat or at least eggs again says they feel better. So I don't think it makes any sense. But I also believe in free will, so, I mean, Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, as long as it is understood that love is the law. Love under will. What state is covered with soy farms? Nothing in the U.S., is it? It's 1:30 in the morning here. I can't believe you guys. Tefur claimed ayahuasca changed us physically on a cellular level. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm sure it does. Ayahuasca definitely changes the physical shape of the brain. I can't remember which part of the brain, but it elongates it and makes it more narrow. So sure. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it does change us. It certainly changes our consciousness. It changes the way that we relate to the rest of the conscious, the rest of the web of life. That you know, certainly our emotional disposition. I think that as I was saying earlier, that different psychedelics have different applications, and ayahuasca is the trauma, emotional. Although also a lot of what people think about ayahuasca is really just new age hippie crap that the ayahuasca industry has created, that has just absolutely no basis in tradition or reality or anything. And one of those things is the meat prohibition. If you tell the Shuar that you're not supposed to eat meat ever, much less before ayahuasca, or they would just laugh in your face. Except that they will pretend like they think that, because white people will think the shamans are fake if they don't tell them to go on a diet. That's the reality. It's not real. Ayahuasca drinking peoples shrink each other's heads and eat monkeys during ceremony. So the whole Pachamama told me to become a vegan thing is just projection. It's just people projecting their expectations onto the experience, and it's not real. I'll drink ayahuasca and eat meat all day long. It's fine. Yeah, GMOs. I mean, okay, so they're. You drink your pee? No, I don't drink my pee. Thoughts on numerology. Okay, so I have been experiencing 1111 synchronicities for decades. I know that's very much associated with the New Age movement, which I generally frown upon, but I've actually recorded it on my channel. There's a video called The Phoenix Process. If you click on 1111, you hear me saying 1111. If you rewind it a little bit or click back a little bit, I'm saying that just thinking about these coincidences involving two 11s will compel them to happen. And I was looking later for where to put the link to my other 1111 video, and I couldn't find it. I clicked on 1111, and I hear myself say 1111. So, I mean, that kind of thing. And then my friend and I were here in Miss Hawaii last week talking about that. And then we went out and we got my phone back. I'd lost it. And he mentioned synchronicity. And we looked at the clock at that very moment, and it was 11:11. I mean, I'm not really interested in drinking my own urine. I have plenty of choices for entheogens. I have Wilca here, which is a seed from a tree that contains 3 different forms of DMT, bufotenin, phenethylamines, all kinds of different. I could take that if I want to. I can drink ayahuasca. I can put bobensana or uña de gato and guayusa for lucid dreams. I can drink wachuma. I have some pure DMT around here somewhere. Probably acid. I don't really feel like I've got plenty of options. I don't need to drink my own urine. Although, if you are going to try fly agaric and you don't want to get repetitive motion disorder, which is where you just can't stop doing the same thing over and over again, it's good to just filter it through the liver and drink the urine first. Which plant has the highest percent of DMT? I think Mimosa Hostilis. But I might be wrong. It could be Chaliponga. I know that Chaliponga actually has a lot more DMT than Chacruna. Oh, I was gonna check, but I got so much cacao juice. Chacruna, no, I don't think Chacruna does have the highest concentration. I'm almost positive that it doesn't. Chacruna has like 2%, which isn't bad, but I'm pretty sure something has like 3%, maybe. Let's see, which plant has highest? Maybe acacia, one of the acacias. My internet's probably not working anyways, but yeah, I don't know, it's one of those. Yeah, that internet's not working. Yeah, I'm sorry the chat, I can't see it, so you guys ask questions, and if I'm not looking, then they're just gone. Yeah, well, they're reindeer, actually. Well, that's cool, man. I mean, you keep getting Amazon ads when they break through. What I hate is when I I I'm like hashtag Amazon, and it's always uh, uh, like the company. You know what I mean? Or like Google always thinks it's something relating to Amazon, the company, and not. Yeah, it looks like Mimosa tiniflora. I don't know. Acacias probably have. Mimosa hostilis can have up to like 3% DMT. I'm pretty sure that's like about as strong as you're gonna get. All right. So do we have more questions? I've been on YouTube for like 5 hours. I think you fasted for 30 days. 30 days. 30 days. Are you kidding? I don't know if that's really sane. I once fasted and didn't eat or drink either for 4 days, and that was pretty crazy. In fact, I was walking down the street at the end of that, and relations between Native Americans and white people in southwestern Colorado are not very good. And I know Native Americans hate it when white people are like, "My grandmother was Cherokee" or whatever. You know what I mean? That's like some like white girl joke, right? Like every white girl's grandmother was Cherokee or something. But in my case, it's actually true that my grandmother was Blackfeet, and she was actually the first Native American woman to play Carnegie Hall. She was a classical piano prodigy, and so that doesn't do you any good. The last thing you want to do if you find yourself in a situation with hostile natives is tell them that you're a quarter native, because they're just going to beat you to death. Like in Northern California, I made that mistake once, and it just doesn't help. But what I was saying is that, they just don't even speak to you for the most part. And violence isn't that uncommon. In fact, one night I was at a bar in southwestern Colorado, and there was a Native American guy who, ironically, his name was Tall White Man. And he just he was just looking at this college kid, and he just jumped up and stabbed the dude in the back of the head. And the craziest part of it was that the kid just turned around with this big knife sticking out of the top of his head and beat the shit out of Tall White Man. It was an absolutely absurd spectacle to witness. Point being, things are tense. Understandably so, too. I mean, if you go down there to the Navajo reservations, and the Ute have it a little better because they started the casinos, and so they're all millionaires. Like, literally every single northern Ute is a millionaire. And they did one of the most awesome things that I have ever seen in my life. They moved back into the cliffs, but they built mansions, and they've got like $40,000 trucks sitting next to them. Like the cliff dwellings where they used to have like their stone, like little cities and houses like Mesa Verde and stuff. Now they have mansions in there because they built casinos. But anyways, so after this fasting for 4 days and no sleep and everything, I was walking on the street, and this Navajo medicine man named Nighthorse saw me, and he said, "Oh, a white man walking between worlds. You don't see that every day." And I was like, whoa, because I was definitely walking between worlds, and I knew it. But I was pretty blown away that this guy knew it. And I guess since I mentioned this, I'll tell you the rest of the story because it's absolutely nuts. And, most of my channel, my videos are based around things that happened around this period. So Nighthorse was like 6'3". He was a little taller than me, built like a brick shithouse, like really nice black clothes from head to toe, silver and turquoise, perfect black ponytail, like long braided ponytail. Like, he looked like he just walked off the set of a movie or something. He just didn't look real even. He was like too perfect, beautiful, perfect, handsome, muscular Native American guy, And there was a little short, chubby native walking next to him. And ironically, remember the story I just told you about the guy with the knife sticking out of his head and everything? This was the same bar where that happened. We were walking past it outside. So we ended up talking right in front of it. And so Nighthorse sees me and says, "A white man walking between worlds, you don't see that every day." And the little one leans up against the glass, and he says, "This is Nighthorse. He is the most respected medicine man in the Navajo Nation." And I was like, okay. And so Navajo tobacco is like the most potent. Here we have Mapacho, which has like 18 times as much nicotine as the type of tobacco that's commercially grown in the United States. It's give or take, but it's much stronger. And generally, we make a tea here, and it's taken through the nose. A lot of the medicinal plants are taken through the nose because the metabolic salts in your stomach and the acids destroy a lot of the compounds and enzymes. And so the medicine in the plants is much more efficacious if it's taken through the nose so that it can absorb directly into the bloodstream. Which is a crazy thing, snorting tobacco juice at first, you're like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. You're imagining like a wet ashtray, like slurping it up through your nose. It's nothing like that. It's delicious, actually. And it's amazing how focusing, and it's awesome. And tobacco is actually a really good medicine, spiritually and physically. A lot of people are horrified at that idea, but it's because the way that we have consumed tobacco in the Western world is just toxic and terrible and addictive. But that's, every poison and used correctly is medicine. And so anyways, Navajo tobacco is way more harsh than the Mapacho here. It's incredibly strong. And so Nighthorse pulls out some Navajo tobacco, and he rolls like a fat cigarette with it, and he starts drawing on the cigarette, and he keeps going and going and going and going and going until the whole fucking thing is gone. And he just like opens his hands, and a little bit of ash falls from his lip, and I'm just like bug-eyed, like, what just happened? And then he turns to the east and blows a little bit out, but it was like a lot because it was the whole thing in one breath. And then he blows it in each of the 4 directions. And that shit saved my life in the Amazon rainforest 10 years later, I think. But, you know, and then the little chubby one that was leaning against the glass said, "He just showed you something very important." And then Nighthorse and I ended up like just walking off into the night. We just started talking, and I don't even know what happened to the other guy. He must have gone into the bar, and I just never even noticed that he disappeared. But then Nighthorse and I went and laid in a parking lot with our heads on, like, you know, where you pull the car up, there's like the concrete thing, and we just talked all night until the sun came up, which is crazy because, you know, they don't do that with white people. And he told me all kinds of crazy stuff that part of it, he made me promise that I would never tell anyone. But I'll tell you what it is. He told me that there's a way to see the beginning and the end and to know why. And it involves fasting and some herbs and some stuff, but I was sworn to secrecy, so, which is interesting. The secrecy is a tradition with the Shuar in South America. Secrecy is a tradition with the Navajo in North America. Secrecy is a tradition in the jungles of Borneo. Secrecy is part of the tradition in the Western mystery schools. Secrecy is part of every tradition that uses magic or ritual in any context of which I am aware everywhere on the fucking planet. You know, it's like, yeah, I mean, shamans eat raw meat, sure. I mean, Native Americans only ate really raw meat. I mean, when they killed the animal, at least, they would rip the fat out and eat that, and they would eat the heart right on the spot. I don't know if they did it for any kind of entheogenic purpose, but yeah, they'll just eat the animal just raw right there where it falls. For sure. So, also, right before I met Nighthorse, I was given a rock by a lady who claimed that it came from a spaceship in the desert in New Mexico. You can actually see the rock on my channel. There's a thumbnail where you'll see a picture, and it says something about a rock from the Pleiades. And it has been taken to colleges and examined by 3 professors. It was taken to a chemical laboratory in Bodo Park in Durango, Colorado, where it was tested to see if it was glass or any other substance that could be identified chemically, and it was not glass, and it was not identified. I took it to Homeland Security just because they happened to be next door. Danny Carey from Tool, I tossed it to him at one point because I happened to be talking to him in LA somehow, and so he had it in his hands, and that night that Nighthorse told me all those secrets, it is a rule that if a Navajo shaman or is telling you secrets, you have to give them something. And usually it's some of that Navajo tobacco, but I didn't have any of that. The only thing I had in my pocket was that rock, and I gave it to him. So now there's this shaman that I told you about, this medicine man, is in possession of this rock that is supposedly from the fucking Pleiades. And we have another specimen. So, I mean, my friend that in the thumbnail on the video, there's that picture is his specimen. They gave us like 3 of them. But that's a whole another story. But I'm sure some of you guys, if you're watching my channel, you probably watch Dakota of Earth, or at least know who he is. Years ago, I think 2 years ago now, I posted a video about how I went to New Mexico and I met with a group of Native Americans and South American indigenous people. There was a Hawaiian medicine man. All these different tribal people were represented, and they were telling us that there were the star beings that all of these indigenous people from all over the world have always been in contact with, and what their message was and why they were communicating with us. And the other day, Dakota of Earth posted a video where he went to New Mexico and a totally different tribe. This only happened in New Mexico because that's where they had the meeting. None of these tribes were, like, the guy that was leading it was a Dakota Sioux, Sundance Chief, and, you know, there were like Mayan priests and Incan and all of these different tribes, but it was a totally different, unrelated tribe. talking about these star beings in the same exact way that the natives that I met with were. So that was crazy, man. To hear this like other random tribe on Dakota's channel now, you know, it's like the same video, and they're totally unconnected. So that's pretty. Oh, somebody asked a while back about using Datura. Uh, I don't know. I don't know anything about that guy. But if you are insane or wish to be, or wish to be dead, then Datura is probably the ally plant for you. It's important to consider that Carlos Castaneda, towards the end of his life, claimed that he made up all of those books and none of it ever happened. I don't know if that's true, because as a consequence of publishing those books, when I was a kid in the 90s, a trend of kids making Datura tea became a thing. And so kids were dying and having terrible bad trips. And Datura is not like the indole ring psychedelics. It's not like a phenethylamine. It's not that. It's something totally different. It causes true hallucinations. So you see things that you cannot distinguish from reality, which is something that you generally will not experience with other psychedelics. I have never in my life taken enough LSD that I saw something that I didn't know was a hallucination. I mean, I've seen things that are like, they look like they're actually there, but they're clearly a DMT entity or some kind of gyrating blob of interdimensional consciousness that has fallen out of a wormhole or something. You know, it's not, it's not, you're not confused about whether it's real or not. At least I've never had that happen. But with Datura, I've seen people passing back and forth cigarettes that weren't there. I saw a video from a police department of these two kids that they're probably lucky to be alive. It's the fourth most deadly plant on earth, Datura stramonium. I don't know about the other ones, but it's extremely fucking dangerous, and it's also extremely unpleasant, and it's also really, really terrifying. So I don't know why anyone would be, the young guy on YouTube, yeah. I don't know why anybody would be compelled to consume these damn plants. And even, I'm not trying to be critical of anyone's tradition. I've never tried it myself, but I'm taught in the Shuar way when it comes to ayahuasca. And Shuar are one of the tribes that put a lot of value on the purging, that this is more important than the visions. Biggest DMT dose? Let's get through this Datura thing and all. There is a plant here that has been reclassified. It is no longer Datura. It's Brumansia Toei is, I think, the Shipibo name for it. I'm not sure if that's correct. Also, Devil's Trumpet, Angel's Trumpet. It is full of scopolamine, and it is the seeds from it are the ones that are blown in people's faces, and then they'll just do whatever you tell them to. It's also one of the ingredients in okay, so Richard Evans Schultz was like the Indiana Jones of psychedelics in like the 1930s and 40s. He was a Harvard professor of ethnobotany. He is one of the people who is the reason why we know what ayahuasca is. He was lost in the jungle for 12 years. He crawled out dragging like 1,200 or 12,000 or some crazy number of unidentified or unknown plants. He found a plateau in Peru where 99% of the plants are psychoactive, psychedelic. I mean, it's just this guy was something else. In like 1940s, he had a basket of peyote buttons in his classroom, and students at Harvard, where students could take the buttons home and eat them, and then come in and write a paper for extra credit or whatever about whatever happened to them when they took the peyote. And so one of his students was a guy named Wade Davis, and Wade Davis had heard about zombies in Haiti. And so he went to Haiti, and he discovered that zombies actually were real. That there were plantations where there were people walking around that had no minds. They were just completely like some of them were like sex slaves, and you could just tell them to do anything, and they would just do it, and they were very vacant. And he's like, "What in the fuck how are they doing this?" And so somehow he penetrated a circle of witch doctors and discovered that what is done is that scopolamine containing plant, some kind of datura, is mixed with the venom of a pufferfish, and there's a powder that is created. It is the Serpent and the Rainbow movie. That movie was based on the book The Serpent and the Rainbow, but they seriously Hollywooded the fuck out of it. It wasn't, of course, that ridiculous. But yeah, that movie is based on the book Serpent and the Rainbow by Wade Davis. But the book is the actual story of how he found out how real, actual zombies are made. And so the witch doctor makes this concoction with the datura plants, some other plants, and blowfish venom. And all you have to do is get it on your skin. So they would like choose a victim and put it on their doorstep, because everyone's going around barefoot down there. And they would walk through it, and then the coma, I guess, that is induced by exposure to this toxin is nearly indistinguishable from death. So they would fall into a death-like stupor, and the doctor would declare them dead, and then they would be buried. And then depending on how brain dead the witch doctor wanted the person to be would determine how long they would leave them underground. And so they would dig them up after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 10 days. I don't know what was the maximum amount of days before they would be dead, but the body, I think, is slowed so much. It's kind of like when people are frozen underwater and they don't get brain damage or die because the cold water has slowed the system down so much. I think something similar is happening. And so the longer they wait, the more brain dead you are. And so they dig you up and give you an antidote, and then you are a zombie slave. And that's where real zombies come from. So there's a little bit of datura trivia for you. But here in the Amazon, they use brumansia or toei with ayahuasca sometimes. But if you're practicing in the Shuar way, which is what I do, or the Shipibo also, I think, share this opinion, and the Quechua, and most ayahuasca drinking tribes, but there are some other people that use the toei to suppress the vomiting. But I think that's a really bad idea. It's safe, like 1 or 2 flowers in like a 5-gallon brew of ayahuasca. It's not very much, but it also is responsible for deaths, because shady ones, sometimes they're not really shaman, I guess. They want to ensure that the tourist has, hey dude, what's up, man? It's been a long time since I've seen your name in the... But I guess it's like early in the morning there, so you're awake during a live stream, right? Or I don't know what time it is there, but yeah, man, there was something. Since you're there, I want to try to introduce you to these safe DMT cryptocurrency guys, because I think you should do an interview on your channel with them. Their currency is going to benefit psychedelic research. And I've talked to the whole dev team for like 2.5 hours the other day. So, I mean, they're super sincere and really great people. And we're trying to figure out how to get like the indigenous organizations here set up with cryptocurrency wallets and stuff, so that we can start helping them to invest and use crypto to blow up their conservation funds and money for projects. And by the way, you guys, I know some of you have heard this a few times, but we're trying to buy a 1,500 hectare plot of land here for conservation purposes and to help the indigenous people. We're going to set up workshops. There are already buildings on the property. There's a river full of gold that we can sluice to help raise money. And Like I said, we're working with this cryptocurrency company to try to help with the, yeah, man, right on, indigenous projects and whatnot. So we've been demonetized on this channel. So if you want to join our Patreon, you can access patron-only content, including my recent reincarnation reveal. Mike, I know you were wanting to see that. I finally did it, but I didn't do it in public because I already told you anyways. You already know who it is. But I told the story finally, and I just did part 2 of how that all happened. And also in the description or in the chat, I think it's just in the chat, you can find PayPal and Zelle to make a one-time contribution, and there's a cryptocurrency wallet if you want to send something on the Binance Smart Chain. We really do appreciate your support, and we put it to good use down here. You know, we give a lot of money to refugees here. There are a lot of refugees from Venezuela and Argentina, and I personally cannot walk by these people with their families like sitting on the street. You know, I mean, we don't have any money, but we have more money than they do. And, you know, I know that if we run out of money, I can just get on the internet and eventually I'll raise enough for us to get some damn food or something. I mean, I just can't do it. I can't walk by them without giving them money. So anyways, support us if you can, man. We're doing good shit down here. There's no doubt about that. And so someone just asked, what is the safest psychedelic? And I think that the answer is pot. But pot kind of sucks. I mean, I don't like it very much. And usually it's not that psychedelic. There's one strain that, see, THC actually is a psychedelic. But damn, it's almost 2 a.m. here. I have been on the goddamn YouTube for almost 5 hours today. Trying to raise money to buy 15 hectares of jungle, man. That's not how it's going to happen. I mean, I'm looking for investors too. So if anybody I'm trying to crowdfund this thing basically. And so far I have a cryptocurrency, maybe a billionaire. And I mean, I would imagine if we get the billionaire involved, it's no big deal. He'll just buy it. Anyways, so there's one strain of marijuana in particular that I think has very much like LSD-like effects. It's called LSD, and it's Barney's Farm. It's not lemon sour diesel. That's a different thing. The email is the one in the dude. My computer's just like not even working. Look in the chat. I just posted it in the chat. And I can't type. I can't, like, I literally just cannot use my computer. Here, let me see if I close it. Because somebody asked me about the cacao, and I dribbled it all over the thing where you touch, you know, so now it's all sticky and wet. And Liberty caps do not grow in the Amazon, but cubensis do. And my favorite are the Tropicalis Pinnalis cyanescen, which is just amazing. It's like really light body thing, you know, it's not like this. Sometimes when I take cubensis, it's just overwhelming, the physical sensations that are kind of unpleasant, and it's just rough. So I really like the Pinnalis cyanescen, but no, Liberty caps grow, I think, in a maximum of like 62 degrees or something, so it's got to be kind of cold. Here we have mostly, this is kind of a cool story too. I found one species that's not known to occur here in massive quantities, and there are commercial pickers here because, you know, there are more and more psychedelic people even in a conservative country like Ecuador. Okay, so I finally got the computer up. Let me see if I can find this live stream. And is the email address in the chat? Because I still just, it's just blank, my chat. I don't understand why, but. That's so bizarre, man. That's the second time this week that the chat has just disappeared. Or, you know, I know it's a pain in the ass. You can look in one of my other videos. I cannot believe that I started this without. I mean, I would just tell you, but it's like really hard to spell. Uh, yeah, this is crazy, man. It says video unavailable for some reason. I don't know what the hell's going on. Oh yeah, it says live chat was turned off, I guess. No, here it is. Here it is. Okay, yeah, I got it. I got it. All right, so here is the email. There's our Zelle and our PayPal goes to that email, and also cryptocurrency, and there's a Cash App address, I guess, there. Okay, so the safest psychedelic would be mushrooms. Speaking of. Okay, so what I was saying is that the commercial pickers had picked all of the cubensis, and I couldn't find any mushrooms, and I was having issues with my brain because I'm sick, and and so my memory was getting weird, and I was getting depressed, and I knew that psilocybin would really help, but I couldn't find it. And so one day I was walking home, and I just suddenly had this like voice in my head that was like, just walk straight into the forest right here. And I was like, why would I do that? You know, it just, why would I do that? And so I did it, and I walked right up to this weird, like, it almost looked like it was made of like soft plastic. Like, it was a really strange mushroom, and I picked it up and like smelled it, and it smelled kind of like Play-Doh, and I thought, well, that's not very appetizing. And well, I can't access the Phoenix Flames one. Look, the Blukers at Gmail, that one that I just posted in the chat, use that one. I got locked out of the Phoenix Flames one. I can't get in. It's like, you know, usually you can like just tell them that you forgot your password and they'll send it. They have some stupid security system that's why no one uses GMX, I guess. They're super stupid. So anyways, I walked into the woods and I found this weird ass looking mushroom and smelled it, and it smelled weird and it looked poisonous, and I thought, there's no way this is food. It's probably not psychoactive. So I took it home anyways, rather than just throwing it in the woods, and I put it on the windowsill. And the next day I noticed that it had turned blue, like psilocybin blue. And I was like, what the fuck is that? So I went back, and they were everywhere. And so I thought, this has got to be cerulean, which I had never actually found. So I went and looked it up. Sure enough, psilocybe cerulean, which is the flesh of the gods. It's the Tiananacatl strain of the Incas and the Mayans. And so... and it's not, if you look at Wikipedia or Google it, it'll say that it's found in Florida and Brazil and Colombia and Peru or something, but there's no mention of it ever having been found in Ecuador. And so, I mean, it was like pounds every day for like weeks, just under all the bushes. And then I started following the trail, and it went all the way to town, like through all the miles down from our house all the way. It was like an hour walk or something along the river, and the mushrooms were just all along. But yeah, so if you're new to psychedelics, I would say either 100 micrograms of LSD, you know, whatever dose of MDMA is fine. No one freaks out on MDMA unless you really overdo it. Or maybe half an eighth of cubensis or something, just to make sure that you're okay. I would never, ever, ever take psychedelics alone for my first experience. Not a good idea. So did I finish the Toei thing? Okay, so Toei is Brumansia, which was classified as Datura, but Datura flowers point upwards. And there's some other characteristic that provoked them to reclassify Brumansia, but it's the same alkaloids, atropine and scopolamine. DMT is great for beginners. Don't listen to this guy. Okay, well, all right. But as long as you're sure that you don't have any predisposition to mental illness, and that you don't have extreme anxiety or PTSD or extreme depression. So you're right. If you are balanced and you know it, then a DMT experience could be a fine place to start. I wouldn't recommend that personally. I mean, I'm not really disputing him. It is true that because DMT is so brief and so powerful, usually you're not even going to get up until it's over. So it's not like, I've literally never heard of anyone doing anything stupid or insane on DMT. And I have actually looked, I Googled it thinking that, you know, there have got to be some bad freakouts or some like really serious bad psychological reactions. And I could not find anything. I'm not saying nothing's ever happened, but I couldn't find one confirmed story on the entire internets of anyone really hurting themselves after using DMT. Not one. So I think he is correct, basically, that as long as you are psychologically sound, you're not going to do anything stupid. But I would dip my toes in maybe like one hit of DMT maybe or something, but the full 3 breakthrough, I mean, that might just crack your head a little bit too much, you know? I mean, that's really just like going full-blown hyperspace, alien, 22-dimensional reality from like Matrix normal world. I would take acid first, probably, if it was me, or mushrooms, or even wakuma. Yeah, I would start with like some mushrooms or something. I mean, also, the thing about psychedelics and mental illness is that, you know, even schizophrenia, which ironically is supposedly caused by psychedelics, it's not. That's not true. It's caused by genetic predisposition or severe trauma. But it can be catalyzed by a psychedelic experience or triggered by a psychedelic experience if you're predisposed to mental illness. And this is what several studies conclusively have established. Psychedelics, no matter how much you take, no matter how big of a dose, you will not go insane unless you're predisposed to mental illness. Period. End of story. You're talking to somebody who has eaten LSD like nearly every day for several years, and I might jump around from subject to subject a little bit every once in a while, but I definitely don't think I'm insane. I don't think I'm insane. I mean, I think that'd probably be subject to interpretation, but I'm certainly lucid. I don't think I've suffered any severe brain damage. In fact, pharmaceutical drugs gave me brain damage that I've corrected with psychedelics. So there's really no concern for that. The problem is that if you are predisposed to mental illness and you do not know it, like especially if like you're adopted or something, and then you take a hit of DMT, you're just gone and you're never coming back. So that is like the biggest risk, although I think the chances of that being the case with anyone are it's pretty small, pretty slim chance that you're going to be that guy. But you might be. And the one sure way to find out if you're predisposed to schizophrenia or any kind of psychosis is to take a large dose of a psychedelic. And if you are predisposed, you're going to find out, unfortunately. Okay, so there's someone asking what the biggest dose of DMT I've ever taken is, and the honest answer is that it really doesn't matter. DMT is not something where you just keep getting higher and higher and higher. The way I describe it, there are basically 3 levels. Three levels. The first level is what people commonly refer to as the waiting room, which is always orange. I think for everyone I've ever heard describe it, it's like orange, pulsing, and it goes faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until it finally kind of like you explode into the second level. And the second level is kind of the upper limits of Yopo or Wilka if you go that route. But then you're in the second level for like an hour instead of 10 minutes. and you're also very uncomfortable and vomiting, and there's a lot of vasoconstriction, so you're very cold. And Yopo and Wilka are actually a pretty difficult way to experience DMT. Um, and then the third level is the breakthrough or hyperspace or hyperdimensional zone, where the things are happening in 22 dimensions, and there are entities that, you know, everything they've ever told me about the future has turned out to be true, no matter how specific, over and over and over again. I mean, they never lie, apparently. I mean, in my experience at least, they always tell the truth. Also, they seem to be real, whatever these things are. For example, if you can find the Shane Mouse, I think that's how you say his name. Where is that, Dustin? Huge earthquake. Where are you? Yeah, well, I'm just saying that once you get to the breakthrough level, there's nowhere to go. It's not like you can just keep smoking more and you're going to get more broke through. It's like, oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad you're all right. It's like if you go to California, you're just in California. You can like go to different parts of California, but it's still just California. And that's what a breakthrough is. So I think once you get to Breakthroughville, you can just keep smoking it if you can move, but it's not going to do anything. It might prolong it, but it's like there's a ceiling, and that ceiling is hyperspace. And once you get there, so you ask me like how big of a crystal have I ever smoked or whatever. I mean, I would never weigh it. I just smoke it until there's a breakthrough, and then you're just good, you know. But I think the DMT with MAO is definitely ayahuasca, and that's the only way that I've ever taken oral DMT, except when you insufflate Wilka seed. The Wilka seed is like the Yopo. There are two trees, Adenanthera peregrina and Adenanthera calabrina, I guess. I mean, my Latin pronunciation's probably completely ridiculous, but those two trees. The peregrina is Yopo, and the calabrina is Wilka. And I don't know anything about just the messengers. I mean, if it's anything that has anything to do with Christianity, and I would say it's probably complete garbage. I mean, it's that psychedelics are false teachers and all. I hate that shit. I mean, it's totally stupid. If psychedelics are false teachers, then tell me why it is that psychedelic people are fighting to save the Amazon and fighting for gay and black rights, and you know what I mean? Like, trying to help everything and everyone, and they're the best people I've ever found. And then you have Christians that are just like totally delusional, oppressive. I mean, and I'm not saying they all are like that, but I'm just saying that for Christians to say like that psychedelics are false evil teachers while they're burning fucking people alive and dragging black people behind trucks down south in the United States and stuff, they just need to shut the fuck up. I mean, it's just the stupidest goddamn thing. To me, Christianity is like the most destructive and evil force that has hit the planet in the last fucking 10,000 years or something. I mean, down here in the Amazon, these cultures have been completely decimated by conquistadors and Christians and priests, and you know, I mean, they unearthed documentation that the Romans describing how they created the Christian myth, why they created the Christian myth. You know, it's not real. It was never real. There was no Jesus of Nazareth. There's not one historical record of him anywhere. The Roman consulate was super anal. They kept documents of every arrest, every trial. There's no record of any arrest I mean, it's just a tool for manipulation. The Romans created it because the Palestinians were expecting a warrior Messiah, and they wanted to make the Palestinians passive, so they replaced their Messiah with this sheep religion. I mean, come on. They call them sheep. Why do you shepherd the sheep? Like, because they want to create manipulatable masses. Sure, esoteric Christianity is completely different. And Christianity was also created by adepts of the mysteries, and that is why people respond to it. One of the popes actually said this, that the people need the truth cloaked in myth. And this is what's crazy. The brainwashing is so complete that a pope can refer to Christianity as a myth in public, and no one noticed. None of the Catholics even noticed. A few years back, the Pope actually said Lucifer, who is our Lord Jesus' father, to a crowd of 80,000 Catholics, and none of them even noticed. Like, when he gets to that line, it's like you'd think everyone in that crowd would have been like, wait, what? Nobody even fucking blinked, you know what I mean? Because they don't even hear it. They're just out there like, the hypnotoad is up there like, and they're all just all, Jesus, and the monotheism thing. They polled Catholics in Italy about who they pray to, and Jesus was number 8 on the list in popularity for number 8, which is funny because 8 actually is the number of Jesus in numerology. But number 8. You're not supposed to pray to anybody but the one God according to this religion. And for Catholics, he's the 8th. He's 8th on the list. PayPal, are you asking me what it is? It's the Blukers, the thing I posted here. I'll post it again. I'll just keep posting it every once in a while. Oh, okay. I am lost? I don't think I am. I'm not lost at all. Jesus is a lie, and okay. So let's look at this in terms of his own words. Judge not a man by his intents, but by the fruit of his labors. More people have died, been oppressed, tortured, killed in the name of Jesus Christ than all of the dictators in the entire human history combined. So by his own metric, Jesus is the most evil influence that ever hit this planet. So I am no fan of Christianity. Yeah, it's terrible, man. It has, the worst thing about it is that religion has served to actually preclude spiritual experience for people. Religion does not facilitate it. Crypto God DMT, pick one? What do you mean? I mean, crypto, it can empower you financially. DMT help you to understand that there is a universal consciousness, but that all religions are complete bullshit. And they're not complete bullshit. Yeah, dude, there are these weird Christian trolls, dude. And the thing is, like, if there are Christians trolling me, I'm just gonna get more and more fanatically and aggressively anti-Christian. I mean, you're gonna make my horns come out, and I'm gonna scare everybody away. Seriously, man. I mean, the hell that I went through growing up in the South, surrounded by Christians, like, I'm on the playground in 3rd grade, and I'm like, well, I don't believe in the devil. Well, do you believe in Jesus? No. Well, according to my daddy, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're automatically a devil worshiper. And I actually had the presence of mind as like a 9-year-old to try. Well, Hindus are kind of like a lesser evil still, but Hindus, that religion still ends up in a lot of cases doing a tremendous amount of damage. What I say about that is think for yourself, question authority. You do not need a doctrine. You do not need a leader. You do not need a guru. You do not need a Bible. You do not need a church. You don't need anything. You don't need anything. But a clear mind, a genuine intent to acquire knowledge, to acquire gnosis, and all you need to do is observe natural systems, and everything that can be known can be revealed through the plant sacraments, meditation, and observation of nature. That's it. What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm not trying to be a guru. I'm not trying to start a religion. I am not telling anyone what to think or what to believe. I'm just telling you, no, I'm telling them that they shouldn't be sheep and to go think for themselves. I mean, that was totally that was like one of the weakest attacks ever, you know? Like, I'm literally telling people to think for themselves and to throw away their scriptures and reject their cultures, even their societies. The whole entire matrix reality needs to be burned to the fucking ground. Human history is so banal and venal that it deserves to be burned so black that it's beyond the power of human memory to recall it. Hail fucking Satan. I mean, what smile? I don't know what you mean, you know? I don't care. I mean, I'm pretty lighthearted, man. I don't take myself that seriously. I'm just saying that I believe in individual gnosis, if anything, you know, no, I don't want to start a religion. I would hate and despise followers. Every man has to cut his own path through the jungle. You know, gnosis is an individually centered, organic, internal process. It has nothing to do with anything that anyone else thinks. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I don't want to know what anyone else thinks, really. I mean, I just encourage people to think for themselves, and I share stories of how I feel like the universe has revealed to me that it's some sort of like universal mind, or at least that there's some kind of design inextricably intertwined in the wiring under the board, and that there is no, what is exactly what I'm doing? What am I doing? You know, I think that the idea of blind, yeah, I like the cartoon South Park. I used to go to South Park. The actual, what is this blasphemy? I used to read the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey in church. I used to, when I was like 11 years old, I would just, and I was like thinking like this way makes way more sense than whatever the hell these people, and they were all just hypocrites and just awful. They're just awful, all of them. And really, you know, in case you're unfamiliar with the Satanic Bible, it's not really anything evil, and he didn't believe in Satan even. It was just common sense, you know. It was just like, you don't, who is this troll, dude? Get the fuck out of here. You're just distracting us. God, like, you're lost. You need religion. I need religion like I need a bullet in my head. I mean, what is it? Sign. No, we can't kick him out. I don't care really anyways. I mean, he'll go away eventually. God. I mean, dog. Why do people fall from grace? Who? Like me? Yeah. Well, I mean, like I'm saying, I don't think he was really promoting evil or anything. He was just, and some of it I don't really agree with. You know, if a man smite your cheek, smite him back tenfold. That's not really necessary. But, you know, a lot of it did totally make sense. I mean, just the idea of individual sovereignty and, yeah, I mean, I just, you know, nobody wants to censor you, dude, but I mean, telling me that I'm trying to like create sheep is just completely ridiculous, because I'm telling people there are ways to discover the fundamental truths about the universe and creation and our own individual, this divine sovereignty of our own being and will, without the influence of any sheep creating Mick religion bullshit. So it just seems really, well, Clark, I don't think there actually is. I mean, if you just look for, I've done a tremendous amount of research into this, and there's not one verifiable eyewitness account. And what's interesting about that is that there are verifiable eyewitness accounts of much lesser historical figures all over the place. So it just, and there's definitely no record of an arrest. And also, there was definitely no one with a Latin name like Jesus. There was definitely no one named Mary. There were definitely no Josephs. There were, you know what I mean? Like, it's obviously completely fabricated by people that didn't even come from the Middle East. So I just don't know why it's even still, like, we didn't keep any other myths from the Bronze Age. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Jesus is following us around like an unwanted groupie at a backstage party, like leftover myth from the Bronze Age that we just need to forget about because it serves no utility. There's no purpose. Like I mean, my son is 18 months old and he understands intuitively everything that Jesus taught. Don't throw rocks at hookers. I mean, you don't need the Son of God to tell you that you shouldn't throw rocks at hookers. That should just be common sense, you know. I think that Terence McKenna was more impressive metaphysically than Jesus ever thought about. I mean, I just don't understand what the big deal is. I don't see why. I think it does so much more harm than good. Like, why can't we just leave it in the past where it belongs, you know? I mean, it serves no purpose. And one of the reasons it resonates with people is that it was created by mystery school adepts. And as someone with, you know, I've been initiated into secret, I was a Mason, I've been in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Stella Matutina, the Order of the Morning Star, and I know a lot about the secret teachings, and I know what it is in the Bible that people resonate with. And that's what earlier I talked about how this Pope was saying that the people need the truth cloaked in myth. And part of what he was saying is that they did put these deep secrets, these deep truths about the universe kind of like thinly veiled so that there's something in there that people hear and they cling to it and they're like, oh, it's the truth. It's because there is some truth buried in there. And then there's like just all this crap that is attached to it. Like, you really think that God said that you needed to pay your taxes? Like, no, that was King James. that was not God. That had nothing to do with. And then let's talk about, you know, the book of Genesis. Elohim is a masculine form of a feminine plural. It's not a him. There is no Jehovah in the book of Genesis. Elohim is a masculine form of a feminine plurality, which implies like a group of men and women. There was no male God walking around in the Garden of Eden, and the Tetragrammaton was not to be pronounced. The Torah was originally written without spaces between words as a sequence of letters. What did the mushrooms say to do with your life? The mushrooms never told me to do anything with my life. I mean, my basic ontological disposition, I guess, or sure, I mean, you know, I just think that the whole religion just needs to just go to hell. Oh shit, actually, I will tell you something fucking crazy the mushroom told me once that that one of these UFO releases just said, and it blew my mind because it's what the mushroom told me about the UFOs. So when I was a kid, Terence McKenna had said that, oh, Mike, since you're still here and you weren't here earlier, I remembered today that the first email I ever sent was to Terence McKenna, and the first email I ever received was a response from Terence McKenna. I don't know how I forgot about that. Goodbye. But it's actually true. Terrence McKenna responded to me, and he told me that if I wanted to come to this thing in Palenque that I couldn't afford to pay the ticket for, that he wouldn't charge me for admission. But anyways, so yeah, I totally forgot about that. My friend was showing me the internet for the first time, and so we watched the South Park pilot where Jesus and Santa Claus fight, and I think they're real, the machine elves. And so then he's like, well, you can email Terrence McKenna about the thing in Palenque. And I'm like, what the fuck is email, right? So I sent him an email, and he responded. I couldn't believe it. But I didn't go, which is the sad part. I really wish I had. But anyways, so, okay, this is the UFO thing. So, and your buddy, the guy that said they were living things, I think I've told Mike this before, but I have this tattoo on my arm because Terrence McKenna suggested taking a heroic dose of like 7 grams. And so I did, and I was laying on my couch, and the wall disappeared, and there was like this thing that I have tattooed on my arm. I'm wearing this shirt. I can't really show you, or I would. But it was like this weird tribal kind of looking face, and it had, for its third eye, it was like a 3-dimensional earth sphere, like rotating around. And it was speaking in a language that was just pure sound cut into intervals, kind of like Morse code made of silence. And Crowley said that the one mind's speech is silence, right? That tripped me out later when I read that too. But so it was speaking in this like silence with greater silence between the silence, and somehow I could understand it. And it said, you have all these questions, and one of them is about your origin. I will show you where you come from. And suddenly there's this giant spaceship, like as far as I could see, and it was made of living tissue. Like the like, I don't know, the electrical, I mean, it's not electrical, but like it had tubes and shit that would be like pipes and electrical, but it was like blood vessels. And so I was just like randomly surfing through the internet the other day, and I came across an interview with one of these government guys that they're supposedly, talking about, the UFOs, and he's like, well, they're actually living vessels. They're living creatures. The ships. I was like, what? I heard that from an interdimensional once. Okay, so the machine elves. I'll tell you why I think the machine elves are real. I had a girlfriend who had never read Terrence McKenna. You guys have to remember, if some of you are younger, that Terrence has not always been this like looming figure that like everyone knew about. 20 years ago he was known, but not that known. And this girl didn't read much anyways, and I don't think his talks were all over YouTube yet or whatever. So she smoked DMT for the first time in my living room, and she had never read Terrence McKenna. And she comes back from the DMT, and I said, what happened? And she said there were these like machine elves that had these Rubik's cubes, and they were turning them, and they're like, look, this is how we create dimensions, which is exactly what Terrence writes or says in the space-time continuum recording. I mean, it was like word for word the same thing. Like everything she said was identical description to the Terrence McKenna thing. So I was like, okay, here's the thing about reality. It's basically just consensus, right? Like if you point a binocular at the Amazon rainforest over there and you see a bird that is blue and it's a macaw, and then you hand me the binoculars and I see the same tree and the same bird, our consensus is that the bird is real. So when people smoke DMT and they encounter the same things, saying the same things, doing the same things, like, I mean, okay, and then Shane Mouse's purple girlfriend, the comedian, right? So he said that every time he smoked DMT, he would encounter this purple woman that was like his girlfriend, and it seemed like they had known each other for like thousands of years. And the girl would even get jealous of his like real Earth girlfriends. And so, yeah, the mantises or something else. So So the DMT girlfriend, one time he says, okay, I need you to prove to me somehow that this isn't in my head. So he never told anyone about this woman. And then his friend comes over and he wants to smoke DMT for the first time. So he gives his friend the DMT, and his friend says, Shane, there's this purple girl in here that told me to say hello to you for some reason. What the fuck, man? When you're like smoking DMT and you have like DMT entity buddies, and then your friends smoke DMT and they meet the fucking same entities, and the entity is like telling them to say hello to you and shit, like clearly these dimensions are real and the denizens of them are real. And you know, I know a lot of people are concerned that they're like demonic and bad, but I have met a lot of DMT entities, and never once has one been like, go and kill people, you know, or kill yourself, or, you know, even like do something dumb or anything. They have told me things that have turned out to be true that they couldn't possibly know. In one case, I was running out of money. I hadn't sent any distress signals to anyone, and I smoked some DMT, and as the cloud of the vision was closing, this DMT entity stuck its head back out through the cloud and was like, hey, by the way, this certain relatives just sent you $1,000. And I was like, what? And the smoke tunnel, you know, the other dimension, the portal closed, and my phone beeped, and it was that relative, and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know I sent you $1,000. So that kind of shit happens all the time. You know, DMT is one of the active constituents in ayahuasca, and the first time I saw my partner, I heard Pachamama in my head. I mean, it was the day after the ceremony, but it stays with you for a few days, you know. And so I hear the voice of Pachamama say, she will have your babies, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. And our son was born 18 months ago. So it doesn't seem to me that they have any maleficent intent. In fact, they seem helpful in general, or just like random and pointless, which is fine too, because they're really interesting. But I don't really worry that they're like demonic or evil. In fact, I think that if they are indeed spirit beings on the spirit plane, there is no injury, there is no death, there is no illness. So they have no concept of these things. So even if they were like dickheads, I don't know that it would even occur to them to tell you to kill yourself or something. Roshan Suckett. That's a great name. Well, thanks, man. I definitely appreciate, I mean, I would warn him. Yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. But it's true. I don't know what to make of it. But everything a DMT entity or a Pachamama has ever told me has been true. Every single fucking thing that I can think of ever. In fact, I even received information about a gas giant that had remained a gas giant and not become a red dwarf star because of the gravitational influence of Sirius A and Sirius B 7 days before it was discovered by astrophysicists and published on the internet. And there are 12 fucking witnesses. And so as evidence that, you know, I couldn't have just gotten high and made that shit up, why would I know that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that the gravitational influence of a couple of stars on a gas giant could stop it from becoming a red dwarf star. Like, it doesn't even make any fucking sense that I would just guess that. I'm not surprised if you're religious that you're a flat earther. Flat earthers actually threatened to kill my entire family at a debate because I was saying that the earth was round. And it was in a revival tent, and there were like torches burning and shit, and they're all yelling like Satanist and all this crazy shit. It was seriously like 1742 with these motherfuckers. And I only agreed to do it because I thought they were just stupid. I didn't realize that it was a religious thing. If I'd known that it was a religious thing and I was being drawn into a trap, I just would have conjured a bunch of demons and sent them down there to I mean, it's true. They had a Navy SEAL threatening to kill me while I was trying to debate the guy because I was just mutilating him. It was just so stupid. It was just so fucking stupid that I was just decimating him. And so this Navy SEAL kept just like walking up to me and saying something, and at first I didn't realize he was threatening me, so I just kind of like ignored him, and then eventually kind of got in my face, and I realized what was going on, and so I threatened him, you know, like, dude, if you don't get out of my face, I'm gonna fuck you up. And I had a glass of wine in my hand. I mean, it was crazy. And then I found out later that he was threatening my supporters, including an 80-year-old woman with cancer that was dying that just came to support me. So yeah, praise Jesus. Fucking pieces of shit, man. My baby, my newborn baby was there in the front row. And they only invited me to debate because they wanted to associate science with Satan. So they knew that I was a former Mason and, you know, involved in the occult and stuff. And so they thought it was a good opportunity to associate Satanism with science. And they set me up. And then when they started losing the debate, they started making murder threats. It was like 100 born-again Christians in this revival tent. Okay, dude, but I mean, you can observe with the naked eye that the earth is not flat. There are dozens of ways that you can see that the earth is not flat. There are videos of flat earthers trying to prove that there's no curvature on a flat lake because it's long enough, and they use a flashlight and a board, and they prove that the earth is curved. And they're like, oh, damn, it's on video. Like they're like, if we get this result, then the earth is curved. And they do it, and they get the result that shows that the earth is curved. Like, we've literally watched flat earthers prove that it's not real. Like, it's not real. The shadow on the moon, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that is visually verifiable. The earth isn't flat. Yep. So, and then, you know, you have all these other spherical bodies in the sky that you can observe with telescopes. So you're telling me there's a flat Earth, and there's a bunch of round planets, and then just one flat, planet. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Observation of stars, sure, yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, you know, the short duration of DMT is definitely an argument for its safety. I'm just saying that you do, if you are predisposed to mental illness, that's probably the one that's the most likely to trigger it. So starting with something more mild, because you are less likely to really like push yourself over the edge irrevocably. With DMT, then like you know, I don't know. I just think it's probably wise to scale up a little bit and not just jump off the thing, the edge of the flat Earth. Do we have any more questions, man? I cannot believe how long I've been talking. It's just crazy how long I've been live streaming today. But it's like my family's gone. I'm just sitting around the house. Did that work? I just tried to post the pitch for support, and I can't tell if my internet is connected or not. We have a toll? You mean a troll? Yeah. There's a toll to pass the bridge. Do I ever do blow down here? Yeah, I've done blow down here. I am not a person that like thinks that people should only do psychedelics. In fact, I think personally, I think that hard alcohol is just as bad as heroin. I think the only drug that maybe no one should ever do under any circumstances is crystal methamphetamine. Hard alcohol is probably number 2. Heroin is potentially pushing your luck, but for example, you know, the neuroscientist Carl Hart, that is a professor at Columbia University, just wrote a book where he talks about how he's been doing heroin responsibly, like the way that people drink alcohol responsibly for like a decade. And he's a neuroscientist, a professor of neuroscience at an Ivy League college, right? So, I mean, just based on my experience, um, I personally, I like a little puff of black tar heroin. I hate to say it, just because I know that you guys might have stigma about it. But for me, it's no different than hard alcohol. In fact, it's not as bad. Yeah, pure heroin actually does zero damage to your body. Most of the problem with heroin is that it's created by cartels that put fentanyl and shit in it, and it just kills everyone. Alcohol lowers your vibration. It makes you an asshole. You go out and, I mean, dude, junkies. If it was legal and it wasn't tainted, and we knew how strong it was, and people didn't use needles, if there was education, there was a clean supply, the price wasn't so high, so if you did get addicted, you could still afford it and keep a job, because most of the health impact, yeah, dude, that's the truth, man. And so cocaine, like what I was gonna say is, like, I'm in bad health right now, so I wouldn't do cocaine right now. But if I went to like a Peruvian beach and I had a few shots of tequila and the cocaine is super pure, like, sure, I'll do a couple of bumps. I mean, why not? Like, I don't really think about drugs as like, I mean, you can't abuse things, but only a small percentage of people actually become addicts that try heroin. Actually, it's 15 to 30% of people that use it intravenously, and only about 10% that smoke it become addicts. That's the same as hard liquor, and hard liquor does way more damage. So personally, yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, you're going to be disappointed though if you're asking me about the cocaine in South America, because you're thinking it's all going to be like super crazy pure, and mostly it's garbage here. Every now and then you can find like really, really pure stuff, but you kind of have to know someone. There are certain places where they tolerate it, so it's almost legal, and you can just like buy it from anyone. And in places where there's tons of competition, I mean, some of the places here, it's insane. Like in Peru, everyone sells cocaine. Like everyone. You go at the beaches, the beach towns. You go to like the I went to get lunch one day, and the waiter's like, "Hey, do you want some you want some Coke?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." How much? And he's like $5 a gram or whatever. So he leaves the restaurant. And there's no one there. Like, he just leaves to go get it, and leaves us in the empty restaurant without any, like, the cash register's there. Like, he just left to go get the blow. So yeah, I mean, don't do cocaine often. If you do, you're dumb, because it'll fuck your brain up. But to have a few drinks and do a couple of bumps, I cannot imagine wanting to drink alcohol without a little bit of cocaine. And I would never touch cocaine unless I was going to drink a little bit of alcohol. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, some things go together like butt cheeks, but you have to be responsible about it. That's all. Salvia divinorum is like when Frodo put the fucking ring on in in what was that movie with Frodo? Lord of the Rings. Yeah, any drug is fine in moderation. I mean, even, I hate to say this, but I mean, I'm not inclined to do methamphetamine. But I used it as an aphrodisiac once, and it was great. I mean, but, I didn't like it. So I was not in danger of abusing it. You know what I mean? So that is one drug that I would say probably no one should ever do. Yeah, I mean, you just can't go overboard. It's like anything else, man. I think it's just really dumb that a person with a drink in their hand is going to look down on somebody that's smoking a little bit of tar, because alcohol is no better. It's not like there's really actually some ethical difference or something. It's just a cultural delusion. It's just cultural sanctioning it's just complete nonsense. I mean, I have done 5-MeO DMT, but not from the toad. And it's an interesting thing, because actually it's bufotenin is 5-HO DMT, but when it's heated, it becomes 5-MeO DMT. And we have here the Wilca seeds. Vilcabamba, the place that I lived before I moved to the jungle, is actually named after no, man. And honestly, like, it's just not worth. It's actually weird because the countries around Ecuador, yeah, in South America, yeah, there is, but not in Ecuador. The penalties for heroin here are so harsh that no one takes a chance. And small amounts of every drug are legal, really small amounts, including heroin. But I can't remember. I think it's only 1/10 of a gram of heroin or something. They won't even arrest you. But a very small amount will get you put in prison for like 12 years. So it's just not worth it for anyone. So you almost never see it. I've heard that there's a lot of it actually in Montanita, but you just never see it. Not in Ecuador, but in Colombia, sure, man. Colombia, they're cooking it all over the place. It's almost 3 in the morning, and I've been on YouTube for like 5 hours today. So, yeah, Ecuadorian prison would be fucking hell, dude. I can't even, that's why, like, I mean, I'm really sick and I'm in pain all the time. And one time, this guy was like, I got some brown sugar, and I was like, no, you don't. And he's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, oh, man, no, just because it's just too much risk. Yeah, you guys, I mean, I don't know why we had to talk about all the evil drugs at the end of the... And they're not really the evil drugs. I don't really believe that. I think that if you have trauma, you need to deal with your trauma before you get high or you run the risk of becoming a drug addict. That's what it is, really. And that's what the research now says, that our previous understanding of drug addiction is entirely wrong. And so if you deal with your trauma, you will not be inclined to abuse drugs. It doesn't matter which one it is. Like, if you have a preference... If you could get pure heroin and you don't put it in a needle and you're just going to smoke a little bit, when you go to a party, if like some people prefer to just smoke a little bit of heroin and other people like to drink some vodka, everyone should just be allowed to do whatever the fuck they prefer, and nobody should have any judgment about it. Either everyone can't get fucked up, or, I mean, if I went to a party, I don't like alcohol. I would love to smoke some opium or even some black tar heroin before I would want to have drinks. I just don't like it, but I wouldn't like to be totally sober at a party either, So, I mean, it's just personal preference. And if you deal with your trauma, then you don't have to worry about addiction. So, it's 3 a.m., you guys. It doesn't, it's not regular, but it doesn't matter. Our society is totally fucked in the head, and nothing that people think really in the mainstream matrix reality really makes any sense. It's all wrong. It's all just wrong. So, yep, bye. Hail Satan. And please do support us, you guys. I put the PayPal and Zelle address in the email in the description with the Cash App and the wallet address for cryptocurrency. If you have trauma, deal with that shit before you do drugs. Don't do drugs unless you've dealt with your trauma. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself with no teeth and no food and sores all over you and shit, and stealing fucking hot dogs from the gas station to stay alive and eating out of dumpsters and stuff. So sure, but it's all locked up because of international fucking the SEC and Binance just we were approved, verified our identity, and then they blocked us out and said verification required, and then we gave them our verification documents, and they just said they don't work now anymore, and so we don't know what to do, and a lot of our money's locked up there. Some of it's locked in the Exodus wallet. What do you mean, why ask for help? This is what I do for a living. I mean, I'm a YouTuber. What the fuck are you talking about? People send people money for making content. That's how we live. What do you mean, why ask for help? I'm down here conserving the rainforest. I give money to refugees. I do all kinds of work to help people, and I need money to do it. I make videos for conservation efforts and to help the indigenous people. So that's why I'm asking for support, because we support a shit ton of people. You can donate by clicking on there's a email address that's either Blukers or Zelle or PayPal in the chat, or yeah, it's a job, man. In the chat, I put the crypto wallet address, the email for the Zelle and PayPal, and the crypto wallet address is for Binance Smart Chain. It should be in the chat. My internet's been all wacky, so I don't know if it ever posted any of them. If not, you can find it in the description to one of my other videos. And after I get off, I'm going to put it in the description to this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. Even the fucking troll that was like, feel like I'm going to get high with all the money. I don't do drugs. I don't like, you know, maybe you didn't hear anything I was saying, but what I was saying is that, you know, I will do cocaine every once in a while. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would even smoke a little bit of heroin if I could get a pure, but it's all full of fentanyl and it's made by cartels, and I don't want to support cartels. But, you know, I'm just trying to be honest and say that I think that, you know, it's alcohol and all of these there are two classes of drugs: those that are like entheogens that you take to elevate your consciousness, and there are intoxicants like alcohol, heroin, and cocaine. And there really is fundamentally no ethical difference between the three. And of the three, I like alcohol the least, and I think I should be able to make that choice without being judged for it. So that's what I'm saying. But I haven't even seen heroin in years. You know, and I used to smoke it like 3 times a year or something. You know, you don't want to do it often, or you'll get yourself in a lot of trouble. So good night, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon, and you can make a one-time contribution to the PayPal or Zelle in the chat or the description, and the crypto wallet and all that stuff. So we'll see you again soon, and thank you so much.